Remind our members that are calling in by remote to keep their microphones muted until such time as we need you to speak or you wish to join the meeting. All right, members of council, members of the public, welcome. This is the Municipal Council meeting for the Township of Clearview on Monday, September the 12th, 2022. There is a full agenda. However, everything must come to a halt as we received some sad news when the world learned of the passing of our sovereign, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, last Thursday at her estate in Balmoral in Scotland. And on behalf of the Township of Clearview, the residents and the visitors, I extend our deep condolences to to His Royal Highness King Charles and to the entire royal family on the personal loss of their mother and grandmother. Her Majesty had a way with words that were so appropriate on many occasions and settings. Plenty has been said already about her wit, her compassion, her knowledge of world events, and her genuine kindness. I found it very appropriate that she shared these words exactly 21 years ago, following the terrorist attack in the United States of 9/11, when the Queen offered her condolences, and she said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." Well, there has been an outpouring of love surrounding the royal family these past days, and I'm sure many more to come as Her Majesty completes her final tour of the UK on Monday. And she will be reunited with her husband, Prince Philip. In Clearview Township, our flags at municipal buildings are lowered until after the funeral on Monday. And in our chambers tonight, the Canada flag, which is immediately behind me, has been draped with the black ribbon, and the photo of Our Majesty has also been draped with a black ribbon. To the members of this council, I ask you to refer to your oaths of office that were said in this chamber individually. Council, item 4 of the oath of office states, "I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, or the reigning sovereign for the time being." Members of council, I call upon all members of this council to hold continuance of our oaths of office and ask that you and the public join me in congratulating our new sovereign, King Charles III. God save the King. Thank you very much. Council, we will have a full meeting, as I said, turning to our regular agenda. And we continue our work here as government. First item on the agenda tonight is our land acknowledgement. And so we'd like to recognize the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Titatanari, the Wendat, and it's the home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people as part of the intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask for guidance in all that we do. As always, I state that this is stated voluntarily, and it's my honor to do so as the mayor of the Township of Clearview. Okay, members of council, on our order of proceedings, there is no closed session for the first time in a long time. How about that? Item 2 is the approval of the agenda, and I have a recommendation be resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated September 12, 2022 as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder?
Your worship, can I jump in?
Mr. McKechnie, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. So sorry for jumping in, sorry for butting in. I'm just, I'd like to have the ATV motion moved up in the agenda. I'm not sure when I should request that. Is that right now that I've requested it be moved up, or do I wait until we get a mover and seconder on this?
Okay, Mr. McKechnie, you're correct. First of all, may I just ask as a point, do you have your cards with you?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I'm just going to have to visually keep an eye on you if you don't mind, just to make sure that I see you.
Right.
If you could, Doug, just put your hand up straight up so that I can see you clearly voting or trying to get attention at any time. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now back to your question about the agenda. Yes, the agenda is presented. It's been well published. If you wish to change the agenda, we need a mover and a seconder. Are you making a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we move the ATV motion up further in the agenda. As you know, I'm on vacation and I'm overseas, and I have an early morning ahead of me, so I'd like to move it up to on the agenda to as far as possible. I'm thinking to right after the deputation and presentation. So at that point,
Okay, so Councillor
right after
McKechnie,
number 5.
Councillor McKechnie, for clarity, then your motion would state that you're asking for item 13.1 to be moved to item 6.1, I guess, on the agenda, which is just prior to approval of the council meeting minutes. Would that be fair?
Yes, that's fair. Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, would you record said motion? I'll look if there's a seconder on the floor. Deputy or Councillor Patterson? Councillor Patterson. All right. Any questions, members of council? Any questions? Looking at the screen, seeing none. All right, I'm prepared to call that motion. All those in favor? Okay, and I see that does carry. All right, so that'll be moved in our agenda. Council, at this time, then I'm going to call for the approval of the agenda as amended. Recommendation be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda as amended, dated September 12, 2022. Can I look for a mover and seconder? Councillor Deneen, Councillor Walker. Any questions? All those in favor? And I see that carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, members of council. See, I can get off page 1 onto page 2. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Has anybody got any disclosures in regards to content of tonight's council meeting? Looking at the screen, seeing nothing. Thank you. I will move to public participation period. Just so I have that, I have my notes here on that. So let me just call that up so while we're talking. Public participation period. Please be advised that comments or views expressed under public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview, Council, or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are to be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. And always, please remember to share your time with your fellow citizens. Council, as you know, and for the members of the public, we have a change to our procedure bylaw, which includes public participation electronically. So I have some of the comments as reviewed that I received up until noon hour on Friday, and that would be September the 9th. And so I have them. I have 7 items that I can mention. So I'll go through those right now, and then we'll go to what's in our chambers at this time. Council, on September 3rd, Council received an email from Mr. Bill Mann in regards to his opposition to the motion regarding the ATV bylaw. Council, on September the 5th, and I think it's Arnell or Errol, in regards to keeping the current ATV bylaw in place. On September the 6th, Valerie Dyer requesting the ability of a council to consider the motion from Councillor Lamers regarding lame duck legislation. All right, so it was quite a question. I want Ms. Dyer and the public to know that I have confirmed that we can legally entertain and debate this motion. Any member of council can bring a motion to the table by following the procedure bylaw. And that is why we have this legislation, or why we have this motion on our table tonight. Item 5 was September the 6th. James McSherry, an email made an assumption about a council member of council that placed the wrong identity onto Councillor Lamers. That was an interesting email, although I did get the point that the person was not pleased with the motion being put on the table. It was interesting to note that the person had the wrong identity in regards to Councillor Lamers. And so for that, we are regretting that we've mentioned it. September the 9th, a letter from the Creemore Area Ratepayers Association, President Greg Young. It's a result of a survey of their members showing only 5% of their members support removing the restrictions of ATV use on Creemore area roads, and also making a claim about a council integrity. And so at this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Young to please be advised that council is maintaining our integrity as we are following the procedure bylaw and respecting the individuals that are elected to serve on this council. And as I said earlier, any member can bring forward motions to this table. We are not restricted by lame duck legislation on this issue. And further, on September the 9th, council received an email from Cheryl Reynolds and Renee Pettijan. It's a letter in regards to opposition to the proposed changes to the ATV bylaw. And just want to remind everyone that that is the letters that we received up until noon hour on Friday, as per the bylaw that was amended for our procedural bylaw. Before I go to the members of the public, I would like to turn to the clerk. The clerk has a comment she'd like to make in regards to the letters that are received. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. With regards to the ATV amendments, a number of comments received with regards to the amendment to the ATV bylaw reference the current municipal election and have been interpreted as being disrespectful to some council members and council as a whole. As clerk for the municipality, my job is to run the municipal elections in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act, remain impartial in all dealings during the elections, exercise judgment and tact to ensure all candidates have a fair race. While I understand that it was a past practice to include written comments as additions to the agenda, there's no requirement within the procedure bylaw to do so. I appreciate the comments that have been received with regards to the township not posting the comments on the website and will ensure the next term of council consider same when reviewing the procedure bylaw.
All right, thank you very much. I hope that has dealt with the concerns. This is public participation. Councillor, did you have a public participation you'd like to participate in? Turn on your mic, sir.
I thought I'd make a comment that's in context and do fairly quickly, if I may. A procedural matter.
If you'd like to call a point of order.
Sure.
What's on your mind?
Point of order then. I think we had a good practice going up to about the middle of June. And then as we all know, with the emergency being shut down, being pulled back, the provisions regarding COVID, that we did go away from our electronic participation. Council then observed comments coming from the public and we reinstated it. And the words were reinstated it. And I had a good discussion with the clerk this afternoon. And without adding any more to tonight's agenda, I will be bringing back a report asking for council to reinstate the use of the electronic public participation portal.
Well, then we can debate that at that time, right?
Just that's my.
All right.
Thank you.
You see, I think the point was missed there that the clerk brought up. The comments of members of council, are receiving disparaging comments, and that's not something that should be published, in my opinion. But that's up to the clerk to determine that at this time. All right. Public participation is now open for the chambers. I look for persons to come forward and share their time with members of the public. Do I have anybody who wishes to speak to the mic? Please come forward and state your name.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Bolter. I live in Creemore. I also practice law in the village of Creemore, and I am here this evening, both in my personal capacity and as a board member of the Creemore Area Residents Association. My comments are to do with section 13 of the agenda, 13.1, Councillor Lamer's recommendation with respect to the ATV bylaw. My first point is that the way this is worded, it says, whereas council adopted the bylaw. It's a factual statement. It says, whereas Schedule B restricts it. Factual statement. And then it goes on to say, and whereas residents of Creemore and Dunedin have requested that the bylaw be amended. I don't believe that to be a factual statement. There's certainly no evidence presented that it was or is. The Creemore Area Residents Association did a survey. One question. Would you like to leave the bylaw alone as it is, or would you like to change it? I don't know when Mr. Chambers makes reference to the residents of Creemore have requested that the bylaw be amended. We received 78 responses, and 95% of them were in favor of keeping the bylaw as it is. 61 of those people live in Clearview Township, representing 137 household members. Francis Price, Tracy Koloska, Murray Skinkle, Bob McLean, Jake Leishman, Greg Young, Bill Mann, Murray Lackey, Phil Richmond, Tanya Lee, Carol and Jeremy Ray, Gerald Blackburn, Bruce and Ann Godwin, Gordon Cunningham, Jeremy and Carol Ray, Chris Jenkins, Francis Braithrup, John Alexander, Mary Stewart, Robert Bernard, Marilyn Badger, M. Bale, Shauna Lucas, William McDougall, Sue Ann Wickwire, Walter Lucas, Bill Martins, Robin Vale, Jennifer White, Nancy Goshens, Elizabeth Eakins, Donna and Michael Cummings, Dennis Campbell, Sue Ald, James McSherry, and Maureen Quigley all further said they were willing to make their names public, that they thought the bylaw should remain where it is. I also have an exhaustive list of the people who would like to change the bylaw and made their names public. Paul Arnell. That's the whole list. My concern is that the statement made as a whereas, it's a factual statement that people have changed their mind. The two councillors that represent the two relevant wards, Mr. Patterson, and I believe it's
Mr. McKechnie.
I'd be interested to know how they stand. They actually represent the residents of these two wards where this is applicable. And furthermore, I don't know that there've been any names put forward by Mr. Lamers or otherwise, not to refer to him directly. I realize I should be speaking to you, of people who would like to reverse the bylaw. It's this magical statement. And whereas the residents have requested the bylaw be amended, who were they? I read out 36 names of people who are willing to come forward publicly saying they don't want it amended. It works just fine. One person said they did. It would seem to me to even consider this for you as councillors to consider this, to do so without at least having 37 names of people who would like to have it changed. You're not acting in the best interest of what the legislative branch is supposed to do. I honestly don't think you are. We have one person who says he believes these people have changed their minds, and we have no evidence of who they are. So we do not want to put forward a precedent where any councillor can come forward and say, well, I was sitting around the pool hall last night and a couple of guys told me we should change the bylaw on dog catchers. We'll never get anything done. There's an existing bylaw. There's a lot of evidence of people willing to speak out in favor of it, and very little, if any, against it. I'd ask you all to consider that before voting on said bylaw.
Thank you for your comments, Keith.
Thank you.
Mr. Poulter, nice to see you. Thank you. You don't need to leave, sir.
No, I was just going.
Are there others that wish to come forward during public participation period? Yes, ma'am. Please come right forward.
Really quick. My name is Paula Price. I also live in Clearview
Hello, Paula.
and I live in Creemore. And actually, I will just reiterate what was previously said, and I'm just here to both commend you on what you've actually been able to accomplish in this time of the pandemic, and also raise the question as to why there would even be a discussion about changing the bylaw when it seems to be working just fine. So I would just like that to be known. And
I can answer that question for you.
okay,
As I stated earlier, it's the distinct right of members of council to bring forward their motions at any time for anything. And that is, frankly, a challenge to how our procedure bylaw works.
okay.
So I, as your mayor, do not vet any of this information prior to it appearing on our agenda. Further, the clerk has no further ability to dismiss a councillor's ask to put something on the agenda. She cannot reject that. So we could bring forward motions that are ridiculous at any time as members of this council. Fortunately, the mayor, because I do have a crazy sense of humor, doesn't get to bring forward motions without passing the chair. So in an example of, if I was to pass the chair, could I pass or ask council to receive a resolution saying that ping pong is going to be banned in the community? You understand? It would be a kind of a ridiculous idea, but it doesn't prohibit me from bringing it forward at any time.
Perhaps I misspoke then. I would just like to say I support the bylaw staying the way it is,
Yes,
rather than supporting the proposed change.
right. Well, thank you very much. This is the process of local government, and I appreciate you coming forward and participating, Paula.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to come forward and speak? Yes, please come right up. I'm not going to go by hands, just step up.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Reynolds, and I am a resident of Clearview. And I too wish the bylaw to stay in the manner that it was written. We do and have noticed a huge difference in the traffic of ATVs coming through our property, riding our street, and also in town. Prior to the bylaw, it was a constant in our area, constant in town. And I remember sitting one day at the river thinking, some young people came along in town on their ATVs and they came in quietly and respectfully. And I thought, oh, that's not quite so bad. As they were leaving, it was a totally different situation. It was revved engines. It was lots of noise, and it frankly ruined my day for a Sunday afternoon. And since the bylaw was instituted, it has changed dramatically the amount of people who are coming into town illegally. There's not nearly as many. They're not ripping up and down Collingwood Street like they were before. So I propose that this motion that we do not change what's already been stated and that it is working. The other part that I'm thinking about more so, that's personally is something that I struggle with, that I see all the time, is the impact to our environment when the ATVs are running through the Niagara Escarpment where they're not supposed to be. And I think by opening it up, that we're just going to see more wear and tear on the escarpment, which really needs to be protected. And I think it's council's job to protect our environment.
Right.
When we're considering something like this, looking at those on open side roads, well, where are they? Well, they run through the escarpment.
Mhm.
And so that's something else that you do need to consider as well.
Cheryl, thank you very much for your comments. I would like to comment back to you on 2 items. One, you mentioned about them persons on ATVs apparently trespassing on your property.
Yes, we have had that. Yes.
Okay, so you must call the OPP on that. That is not a municipal issue. It has nothing to do with this council or this government.
Okay.
That is straight up an OPP concern. And you need to deal with that on a personal note with the OPP. We cannot do anything about trespassing on your private property. All right. And the second thing you mentioned was the NEC or the NVCA area, the Niagara Escarpment. You're absolutely right. It's an overall obligation of the entire community to protect the environment. The legislation that we are responsible for, which the ATV bylaw falls under, is about transportation links. And we're talking about roads. All right. So we don't have any control over roads as far as environmental impact to the NEC or so on, because our roads are traveled by vehicles, and all vehicles, whether they be tractors or whatever, bicycles, snowmobiles, et cetera, cars, trucks, all use the road equally and safely and shared in the same fashion as an ATV would. We can, by legislation, prohibit the activity of ATVs on our roads, and that's what part of this bylaw has done.
And it has made a huge difference.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you. And thank you for your email earlier too, which I mentioned. Thank you. Hello, someone else. Hello, Andy. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Mayor. Greenmore resident. I'm a member of the ATV community. I have a 2009 Polaris Sportsman 850. JNR Cycle fixed it up this summer. Mr. Roger, thank you. It has never run this well. I'm in the restricted zone. My buddy's not in the restricted zone. My friends complain about everything. I haven't heard one complaint about the hassle of being in the restricted zone. I guess I would say I feel comfortable making an argument on behalf of someone who hasn't actually made this argument to me. If someone's in a restricted zone and they want to get up to the trails, we have to go on our trailers. We have to go on our trailers. I don't love it, but when I bought my ATV, I knew Clearview did not allow ATV on the road. Many townships don't. So I have my trailer. My buddies, we all have our trailers. Out of an abundance of generosity for people who I don't even know, because like I said, I haven't heard one person complain about this. And I put this in a letter to you all. Imagine a permit system where somebody like myself could pay $3. I could put a permit sticker on my ATV. We could use the logo of Clearview Township. And with that permit on my vehicle, I could go from my residence to the trail. If I abuse it, you won't give me the permit the next year. That's near free enforcement. Like I dare say that's a free enforcement. I don't even know, to be honest, if I'd buy the permit. I mean, now that I've said all this, now I feel like I have to, but I don't even know how many permits we'd actually sell. But it is a way to help the people in the restricted zone get on their beloved vehicles, and God knows how much I love mine, to get to that trail. So I think if I had to pick how you all vote tonight, I think I'd rather still have the measure not brought forward and then have us all take the time to figure out how this permit's going to work. But if I can't get that first wish, please have a discussion about how these permits can work. Because I do acknowledge there are people stuck in the restricted zone. And just because I don't know them, I've never met them and never heard from them, it feels fair to me to give the people this option. Those are my comments tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I don't think you had a specific question in there, but I think that was good commentary. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Andy. Nice to see you again. Are there other members of the public who wish to come forward tonight? One, going twice, as they say. And the third time, I want to thank all the members who participated in the public participation period, both in the written electronic form, as well as appearing in front of us right here in the chambers. It's nice to see you all tonight. For those at home can't see, there is, let me see here. Let's see, that's 11 people here tonight, which is great. Wonderful to see. All right, council, we'll move on in the agenda. And I know we have a deputation coming up. We do have another topic to talk about tonight, and we do have Judy Ferguson and Chris Ferguson who have come forward with a presentation they'd like to make to us tonight. So at this time, I'll call upon Judy to come forward. If you'd like to, I'm not sure if you wish to just stand, or you can probably pull the chair up and speak if it's more comfortable for you, Judy. Sure, grab that chair. Chris, you're right there. You can move the microphone. Let's just help her out here. Welcome, Judy. In just a moment, let's see. Okay. Can you just turn it towards her? There we go. Judy, you have a very soft voice compared to me.
First of all, thank you, Mr. or Mayor Measures, and to all council members for allowing me to address you this evening. My name is Judy Ferguson, and on behalf of my son Christopher and myself, I wish to speak to you about the proposed site plan as listed in the application 2021-031 SP. I addressed council exactly 1 year ago, and at that time it was about the 75% reduction in the buffer zone for the proposed Tim Hortons drive-through. A second concern related to the drainage in the area, and we have since learned that a pipe 15 inches in diameter will be used to drain all the snow melt and stormwater from the proposed site into the AG municipal ditches. Sarah. And again, please. Yeah. Thank you. This ditch is supposed to drain north to the Mad River, but the conditions of the culvert and the sediment in the ditch slow the drainage considerably. Sarah. Some of the local residents actually clear away the buildup of dirt and gravel so the water does not back up and cause flooding on the nearby plains. Could you do the next one, Sarah, please? So this is the north entrance to the site, and you can see that, no, back. Thank you. You can see that the collapse of the sides of the ditches are caused by vehicles entering and exiting the site. So besides the local residents, we have the local volunteer firefighters of Clearview who also clean up every spring. Sarah, please. They clean up the ditches every spring, and this is what they faced this past spring. Please note the sign for the fire department, which says slow down. These large plastic containers not only added to the problem of drainage by blocking the culverts, but they also created an environmental issue by being allowed to enter the Mad River system. They came from the commercial site where reportedly the owners are going to be the ones responsible for the maintenance of the catch basins, the separator, the underground drainage system, if the application goes forward. In a hydrogeological impact assessment, which was commissioned by the owners of the site, the subject lands are identified as a significant groundwater recharge area and overlies a highly vulnerable aquifer. Best practices should be followed so that surface contamination does not occur. Under the provincial policy statement, section 2 regarding water, planning authorities are to minimize potential negative impacts, including cross-jurisdictional impacts, which should include the involvement of Grey County because they too are in the same floodplain zone. So in collaboration with Simcoe County, the issue of the AG municipal ditches should be addressed and corrected before the 15-inch drainage pipe is activated through a site plan approval. I know this is a county issue, but please, could someone advocate on our behalf for some preventative maintenance in regards to drainage? So in spite of these ongoing concerns, my main focus this evening is all about traffic safety. So the main purpose of a traffic impact study is to examine the impact of traffic generated by the proposed development at its access, at nearby intersections and interchanges to determine necessary highway design improvement requirements. So at the bottom of the map, where Gray Road 4 intersects with County Road 124, there are 16 entrances between that intersection and the river alone. To complicate matters, for any of you who have driven 124, you know that it takes a 90-degree turn near the top of the map, and there's a four-way stop there. So traffic often gets backed up in both directions, so much so that residents in the area have to travel out of their way to gain access to the main road. When I spoke to Mr. Ainley on site, he told me the traffic study had been completed to everyone's satisfaction. Unfortunately, the residents in the area were not part of that study, and they have very serious safety concerns about the traffic relating to this site. The county confirmed that a traffic study was done in 2021, and what follows that is predictions are made as to future roadway volumes, turning movements, speed limits, etc. That information is then fed into a computer program, and the computer determines the outcome. What seems to be missing is the human element. When I spoke to an engineer from the transportation department, he informed me that as long as boxes can be checked according to some algorithm, then the traffic impact study passes. Unfortunately, this does not always line up with what is practical, as the following pictures will show. So obviously, none of the following pictures were staged. They were all taken on various days at various times, and none were taken on busy weekends. In 2018, the average annual daily traffic count for this area was 6,000 vehicles per day. Now, traffic counts are conducted every 3 years, and due to the pandemic, an updated traffic count does not reflect an accurate increase. So back at the top of this hill is the intersection of Gray Road 4. And with the flow of traffic, you can appreciate the difficulties that motorists would have entering County Road 124, either to the left or the right. The line of sight it's not good. The red truck is legally within the 80-kilometer speed zone, and yet it's less than 300 meters away from the proposed entrance to the stacking lane for the drive-through. Sarah? Now, 124 is a tourist route, and this just demonstrates the constant flow of traffic in front of the commercial site. Please note that the 50 speed zone does not begin until you get to the bottom of the hill, and it's only 200 feet away from the proposed stacking lane. If at times more than 12 cars are lined up through the drive-through, vehicles would then be backed out onto 124, which would make for a significant safety concern. Sarah? County Road 124 is also a truck route. A lot of gravel trucks from the Brampton area seek out the fractured stone from the quarries north of Singhampton. Now, both trucks in the foreground have their brake lights on. I'm not sure if you can see that or not very clearly. They're attempting to slow down before the smaller car exiting the commercial site pulls out in front of them, and they are still legally within the 80-kilometer zone, just approaching the 50 sign. Sarah? The white box truck is parked on the shoulder of the road because making a left-hand turn for it was impossible, and there's really no room for such a truck on site. Sarah? Now, in the next picture, the bays are full. So the pickup truck, which is pulling the trailer, has pulled off the road just far enough to allow traffic to pass behind it, but it also blocks the site for anyone attempting to exit. Sarah? In these pictures, or this picture, these trailers are parked on the shoulder. One is actually blocking the entrance to a private driveway and is right beside the future stacking lane entrance. Both trailers are obstructing the view of any vehicle attempting to exit the commercial site. Incidents such as these happen on a daily basis and continually place innocent people in very dangerous situations. Sarah? There is not sufficient space for parking on site for larger vehicles. So of course, they use the shoulders of the road. Once again, this picture shows how dangerous it was for the black SUV to exit the site. Now, please note the SUV is actually traveling uphill on the shoulder on the wrong side of the road facing oncoming traffic because the driver did not have a clear line of sight to exit the commercial area. Again, this happens all the time. And with even more vehicles using the proposed drive-through, it will become even more dangerous for motorists. Sarah? All the vehicles that you see facing uphill are all parked on the shoulder of the road opposite the commercial site. Once again, there is no room for these larger vehicles on site, and they continually block the view of residents who wish to safely exit or enter their own driveways on that side of the road. Sarah? Truckers who want to pick up a Tim Hortons coffee are left with this as their only option to pull over. The big white truck, as you see, is on the side of the road. Now, I understand that the County of Simcoe has requested a road widening of County Run 124. I'm not sure if this is to allow for left turn lanes or is it related to the reduced setback for the gas pumps? I don't know. Sarah? In this picture, this person has avoided all the craziness by parking in the front of the fire station. Problem solved. Sarah? So this is the intersection at the top of the hill of Gray Road 4 and County Road 124. The line of sight to make a left turn towards Collingwood is not good. And a sign for speed reduction as motorists brake over the crest of the hill is not even visible from this vantage point. Lights at this intersection would provide gaps in the flow of traffic, which would increase the safety for both residents in the area and for the traveling public. Sarah? Now, this shows the grade of the hill at 4%. The max is 6. Now, this truck can legally be doing 80 kilometers an hour within a few hundred meters of the entrance to the parking or the proposed stacking lane. Sarah? To climb the hill loaded, this gravel truck was doing 80 way before he hit the sign, and you can't see the sign there. It's blocked by the other counselors, which means that it was speeding as it passed the commercial site. Thanks, Sarah. And the next picture, please. So in this picture, top left, 4 vehicles are coming down the hill. Top right, all 4 enter the site. Bottom left, they've obviously missed their turn because they all do a U-turn in front of the gas pumps, except the last car, which has to stop on the edge of the entrance because now it would have to cross in front of the vehicles exiting the site. Again, this is the entrance to the stacking lane for the proposed drive-through, and there is already daily confusion and traffic movement on the site. What's it going to be like with a drive-through? Sarah? So in this picture, on bottom or on the left side, the black SUV is trying to exit the site to the left. The black pickup truck is making a left into the site, and the white pickup truck is passing on the right shoulder. This is already an extremely busy spot. Vehicles are pulling in for fuel, people stop to pick up items at the convenience store, and still others make purchases at the LCBO outlet. The site proposal as it stands will complicate the traffic flow even more so. Improvements must be made to ensure the safety of the traveling public as well as the local residents. I know that you rely heavily on the recommendations of your staff, but in good conscience, there are currently some serious flaws in the highway design that should be corrected before the site plan is approved. Left turn lanes, paved shoulders, a reduction in the speed limit on the steep incline to the south, lights at the nearby intersection of Gray Road 4 and 124. And yes, I understand that these are all county issues, but they are all relative to the commercial site And again, they are huge factors in the safety of not only the residents, but the traveling public. I have a petition signed by concerned area residents asking that you advocate on our behalf to address these, thank you, traffic safety issues. We trust that all aspects of this application are being thoroughly considered and the public is putting their trust in you. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ferguson. A great presentation and very good information and firsthand knowledge that you're bringing forward in this discussion.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that very much. It would be my great hope that members of our staff in the planning department and or transportation department are able to review this material and have a closer look at it in their discussions with the County of Simcoe and the County of Grey.
Yes.
And as we all know, Singhampton is one of those special communities across the entire region in the fact that there are so many different, contrary laws that meet at that piece of roadway.
Yes.
And so it's a very interesting neighborhood to live in in Singhampton, that's for sure. So
I have talked to both County of Grey and
Yes.
County of Simcoe, all members of transportation department in all areas. And interestingly enough, I still don't know which one is in charge of the speed.
yeah,
Nobody could tell me. We have the misfortune of being on the division line. So we've got county, Grey Highlands, Clearview counts. It's just,
absolutely.
so
And
please
so
try.
while I deeply appreciate you being here, I'm glad you acknowledge and recognize the challenges that we face in
Yes.
trying to get any type of resolution to this. I think the good news is as I stated earlier, that our staff, both in planning and transportation, will be very aware of this content and this concern. And I'm sure that it will need to be part of their consideration before they bring forward their report. So it's very timely of you to bring this forward, Ms. Ferguson. Appreciate
So
it.
the 60 plus signatures that I had
Yeah.
on the petition, when I canvassed the area, each person looked at me and said, this should have been done a long time ago,
No kidding.
and they went, something has to be done.
Yeah.
So please.
Oh,
and thank
no
you.
doubt. Judy, when I was reviewing this, I went back to my notes and I wish I don't have them right here in front of me because they were in my office, but there was a gentleman who lives on the Grey County side who made a great point about the water doesn't go uphill and culverts don't, and I got thinking, this is now the time to get that type of thing corrected, is it not? So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I sent every member of council a package. So you have all my information.
All right.
Thank
If you don't mind, Judy, just hold on a second. Are there any members of council that have any questions to Judy in regards to her presentation? Oh, there's Mr. Patterson. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Hopefully I can-
You can help. Hope you can help, Judy.
Before I say anything, can we maybe have a comment from our staff?
I'm not sure if they're up on it, but let's just see who is on board. I got to be honest with you. Prior to the meeting, I didn't even check on our attendance. Madam Clerk, who's with us here tonight, transportation wise and or planner?
Oh, sorry, through your worship, I believe Mara is in attendance.
Mara's there. Hello, Mara Burton. Mara, check in. Hello.
Hello, thank you, Your Worship.
Yes, Tom, Mr. Patterson had a question to you. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Well, since Mara's here, when next what's the next step in the application? I realize the roadwork transportation rests with the regional authorities, but I don't feel comfortable proceeding with an application in our township, in our municipality, when we have recognized, at least demonstrated issues to resolve in the transportation side. So I think we have a direct role in this. So when will we see next this application, Mara?
Yeah, thank you. Through Your Worship to Councillor Patterson. We will look at, of course, all of the comments that we've received, and we can certainly touch base with the county. It is, up to the county to clear the concerns. If there are concerns, we can certainly, do what we can to advocate. There will be a report coming back to council with the site plan. Perhaps the county's got some long range plans or some or perhaps they can look at speed. But from the planning department's point of view at this point, we would have to have some very solid foundation coming from the county for us not to recommend approval of the application. It does meet everything that it needs to meet, and it is zoned. So at this point, that's probably where this is headed, but we will certainly advocate and touch base with the county. Just to recognize that we always look at applications in the eyes of what the Ontario Land Tribunal would do on an appeal. And in this case, the only person that can appeal this to the Ontario Land Tribunal is the applicant, because it is a site plan. So we always keep that in mind as well, because we do have to balance the private interests with the public interests. And unless there's something that the county says that the applicant needs to do, really, we're probably looking at bringing this back to you, because that is in the interest of planning in this regard for the application.
Thank you very much, Mara. Anything further, Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you. The two things that are similar to other applications, often when we have a proposal on property like this, where we realize that for good traffic management, we would need a turning lane. And when that lane would require at least acquiring some land, that the county often steps in and makes it a requirement of the application approval, at least their comments. So what would be the harm, or why not take a proactive step and acknowledge that we may not have the solution, but we certainly have a recognizable problem, and we would like our staff and their staff, and in fact the two regions and our staff, to work together to see if we can resolve it. What would be the harm in making that representation?
I'd like to go first, actually, if I can, Mr. Patterson. Certainly, the township is working with the county of Simcoe, the county of Grey, the town of Blue Mountains, the township of Grey Highlands. We've made delegations to the MTO in regards to an actual traffic study for the entire region. And that would need to be completed, particularly being that piece of road is as I said before, a joint road between Grey and Simcoe. So any type of transportation study needs to be completed. So it's in the works. And as far as, moving it forward beyond that, I think we need to at least find out where the county engineering staff stand on it. Ms. Ferguson has indicated she's spoken to them already. So that's a real plus. Appreciate that. It's always good when a member of the public steps up like that. So I think we still have a waiting game here, Councillor Patterson.
And my final point is, if the public works are here, would they agree to send a letter based on this representation tonight?
Well, that could be. Thank you.
Did the CAO comment on that?
I don't know if the CAO is available for that type of comment. Before I go further, though, I want to acknowledge Deputy Mayor. I have seen your hand shining up there. So I'd like to go to the CAO first. Mr. CAO, do you have any comment? Mr. Ferguson?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through Your Worship, as it relates to Councillor Patterson's comment, I can discuss it with Public Works, and we can certainly send a letter stating that we have additional communicated concerns on the roadway here, and perhaps that will increase the priority for the county. I think all in due course we should be able to communicate that. And but you're correct, they are doing a study and they're going to finalize a variety of areas in the township, and but we'll put this on their table as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Burton. Mr. Burton, can you hear me? I'm not hearing you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Are you muted still? I can't tell from the vantage point. Looks like you are.
There,
Yes.
no, I'm unmuted. I'm having a little problem clicking buttons that aren't doing what they're supposed to. I actually did not, I accidentally put my hand up and I was trying to get it down, so I have no comment. Thank you.
Oh, well, I saw that, so thank you. All right, Deputy Mayor, nice to see you. I see Mr. McKechnie has still got his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. McKechnie.
Thank you, Your Worship, and great presentation, Judy. Seems to me that Judy is running into a wall of bureaucracy here. dealing with the various counties and various levels of government. So I just want to make sure that the CAO mentioned that we could send a letter to the county expressing our concerns and Judy's concerns. Does that require a motion? I just don't want to see that fall through the cracks. Does that require a motion?
I would suggest to you, Councillor, that the CAO has said he'd send a letter, that would be confidence enough that there'll be some type of letter. If the CAO is stating that that's going to happen, I think that would be fair enough. The content of the letter would be up to the professionals, being the CAO and the Public Works Department, in regards to their commentary. But certainly the presentation that Ms. Ferguson has delivered to us is excellent ammunition when it comes to writing that letter.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
what you're looking for?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that it goes ahead and that it gets done, and that we use Judy's presentation as much as possible. It was an excellent presentation and such. I look at the Tim Hortons down on what is it, County Road 9 there, down near the Airport Road and County Road 9, and all the difficulties cars have pulling in and out of there. It's really hazardous. And I think we're just setting ourselves up for another situation like that in Singhampton. And, sadly, it seems like, Judy's running into a bit of a wall of bureaucracy, as I said. So anyway, I think that we have to do what we can to help her out here and at least get that letter sent off to the county. So that's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That's great. If there's nothing further, I do have a small motion. Anybody else? I have a motion to put on the floor, and it's simply that the presentation of Judy Ferguson for item 5.1 be received. Ms. Ferguson, like to speak first before I look for a second, first and second.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Judy.
point of clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
What happens to the petition?
Your petition?
Yes.
It'll be included into the received
Oh,
motion.
Thank you.
And so it's received. One of the challenges of petitions, just as procedural acrobatics, is that petitions have to be clearly identified persons by their address and so on. So there's this is a good petition, but it doesn't qualify as a legal petition, but it's certainly information.
I was informed that due to privacy matters, phone numbers and personal addresses were not to be included.
Well, that's true, but the identification needs to be included for official purposes, and it doesn't have to be, they can be redacted from public documents.
I'll take it back and get those.
Oh, I'm just saying, but the clerk is right here. If the clerk would like to comment on how petitions are received or not received by the township. Madam Clerk?
Through your worship, if this, it was my understanding that this was going to be included as part of the agenda.
Yeah.
If that was the case, then the names and addresses, the contact information would have been redacted.
Correct.
So
had it had addresses on it, it would have been redacted. But we would still have that information in the official files of the township.
Okay.
It's kind of fun, isn't it? These procedural acrobatics. Honestly, this council has been dealing with them a lot over the last year, so we're getting used to it.
I can go back.
No, you don't need to, but we appreciate it. Thank you, Judy. Unless there's anything further. Members of council, I have a motion that the presentation of Judy Ferguson for item 5.1 be received. Can I have a mover? Mr. Broderick, seconded by I'll go with Ms. Deneen. Councillor Deneen. Seeing nothing, all those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy. Nice to see you. Chris, thank you for your audiovisual assistance as always. Nice to see you. Attaboy. All right, members of council, we have an amended agenda. So we're going to move to item 13.1 at this point. 13.1 is way down on page 7 of the agenda. And so at this time, I'm prepared to read. Thank you for those that are leaving the chambers. Have a good night. I'm going to read the motion. This is the notice of motion put forward by Councillor Lamers. Mr. Lamers, I'll look to you as the mover. You'll be the mover, I believe. Nodding your head, yes. Yes, thank you. So this will be moved by Councillor Lamers, and I will look for a seconder. Recommendation, whereas council adopted bylaw 20-71 regulating off-road vehicles on certain municipal highways. And whereas Schedule B of bylaw 20-71 restricts off-road vehicles from all roads and road allowances south of County Road 9 to Township of Mulmer, and all roads and road allowances west of County Road 42 and County Road 142, impacting Creemore and Dunedin. Can I just note that should be County Road 124, not County Road 142. And whereas residents of Creemore and Dunedin have requested that the bylaw be amended to lift the restrictions wherein the areas identified above the permit ATV travel from their properties to trails. Now, therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to bring forward amendment to bylaw 20-71, removing the restrictions identified above and inserting the following paragraph under section 2, regulations of off-road vehicles on highways. And 7, it would be in any settlement area except as a means of direct access to the approved trail routes or to obtain core services. The motion is moved by Councillor Lamers. I'm looking for a seconder. Is there a seconder on the motion? Councillor Deneen is seconding the motion. Councillor Deneen, thank you very much. All right, council, when we receive motions, I always go to the mover to say something first. If the mover of the notice of motion, Mr. Lamers, would like to say something, the floor is his. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, ever since we moved this in 2020, I have had numerous complaints talking to locals and people in the area, and they were all upset about being segregated from Clearview Township, not being allowed to ride their ATVs. So this council and the next council will have to work hard with the OPP to better patrol the areas as we move forward to open up Creemore along with rest of Clearview Township to be equally across the province, across the township of Clearview.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there others who wish to speak? Councillor Patterson is up first.
I just start with a quick question. When you say open up, what do you mean by open up? The way your motion reads could be interpreted that you want to give access for those people, those riders in, as you say, Creemore and Dunedin, access to the same route that others in Clearview have. That to me sounds like a fair approach. But what I just heard you say implies verbally that you're looking to bring people into what I would call the restricted area or the red zone. People recognize the red zone by this map, where the southwest corner of Clearview. So do you want to give access for those people in the restricted area for access to the services that others have? Or do you want to bring people into that area?
It's to let the people in Creemore and those restricted areas to get out to the surrounding areas. We have no control over the NEC, the NBC areas. Or the county roads. So they need to get out, legally get out of town to the rest of the roads or trails.
So your motion, if I may, is just then for those that are in the restricted area now to get out to the rest of Clearview.
Yeah.
Not for somebody in Sunnydale or Nottawa come into the area, the restricted area.
Unless they're going in the shopping.
With the exception of what we have in Creemore, there are no core services or any services of any kind, including a lemonade stand, in that restricted area, nor are there any approved trails. So why would they want to come in there? I can understand those that are in that area wanting to go out to the approved trail, the OFA TV trail, or to get I'm not sure what core services are, but for now, I'll just say other services. So I think we need to have clarity for me just to understand what the basic motion is. At the moment, I don't feel comfortable with the motion as written or even as explained, because I'm not sure that it's done as carefully as we did the work in 2020. I think generally the feeling throughout the township is that the bylaw is working. It was a fair assessment of what access was to be given, and there really isn't any changes or any indication from those users that we know of that would require a review. So I'm trying to understand what's the motivation there, and I think we'll get, if you were asking for the Public Works, if you're asking council to direct Public Works to bring back a bylaw, there's far more information they need at this stage before they could actually write that statutory document. Again, it's not clear if you're asking just for access out of the restricted area for those people who live in that restricted area, or if you're inviting people into that restricted area.
All right, Councillor, you've made your point. Councillor Lamers, go ahead.
We're inviting people into Creemore and out of Creemore to get gas, shopping, visit the local stores in town. All it's going to do is increase the popularity of Creemore to more tourist people.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There's others that want to speak. I see Councillor Broderick. I'm looking for other cards. Are there other people? Mr. Walker, and then I see Mr. McKechnie. Thank you. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Oh, and there's the deputy mayor. Okay, I've got a good list going here now. Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I got a few comments, and I also have an amendment, a friendly amendment I'd like to propose. First off, just from the comments and emails and such that I've read on the subject, there seems to be a lot of confusion and a lot of fear. Folks are afraid of the unknown. What we've seen around the municipality, though, where the ATVs are allowed, is huge acceptance. They're not the problem. They're not the boogeyman that people seem to think that they were. One of the things I'm concerned about here is the othering. And this keeps coming back. When we other people, it's a form of discrimination. It really is. It's an us and them thing. And I keep coming back to as well, the two upper tiers of government, both federal government and the provincial government, passed laws and allowed this to happen back in 2003, actually. This is just a housekeeping item as far as I can see. We're way behind time here. We're just catching up. Yeah. As far as do you want me to enter the?
You said you had a
friendly
amendment. So I'd ask the mover and seconder to pay attention. Go ahead.
Okay, and further that staff be directed to contact the County of Simcoe and discuss options to permit all-terrain vehicles on County of Simcoe roads within the Township of Clearview and report back to council on October 3rd. If we're talking about transportation, then we need to talk to our other government, our next tier of government as well. And especially when we're discussing the urban areas or access within the towns, the county roads within the urban areas. When I look around at other municipalities, Wasaga Beach, well, I was in Clearview and Bancroft over the last week, and they all have inclusion zones, and everything within the town limits is open. So I think that's going to be necessary moving forward as well.
I'll look to the, thank you, Councillor Broderick. I'll look to the mover and seconder. Go ahead, Mr. Lamers.
You're talking within just the town limits for the county road access.
I initially started there, but the open discussion is probably a good one to have, as there will be other areas that probably should be included. And if we are having a discussion staff to staff, then that seems like the appropriate time to do it.
So you're in favor of the friendly? Seconder, are you in favor of the friendly?
I'm just wondering about the time frame with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually,
Mr. Broderick, I think what I'll do is I'll ask for that to be a motion so that we can have a vote on it.
well, what and I might have missed part of my, I did ask, or I did write down here, and I may not have read it, but I would like a report back to council on October the 3rd.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I'd like you to prepare that as a motion. I don't think that's going to be a friendly, given the time period that's available to our staff, if you don't mind. So if you want to write something up. In the meantime, I'd like to go to the CAO. Mr. CAO, could you provide any comment on any availability to provide a report as what's asked for in the motion? Mr. Ferguson, you there? Yeah, there he is.
Yep.
Hello, John.
Yep.
John, do you have any comment about the availability of time of staff to prepare said report?
I haven't had a chance to talk to staff about it, but I will talk to them and endeavor to reach out to the county and convey what Councillor Broderick is asking us to consider.
Right. And so my question to you is logistically, is it even reasonable that you can do it between now and the next council meeting? And I guess not the next meeting. What would that be? The October 3rd?
Through your worship, October 3rd, one after that is November 7th.
November 7th. Okay. John, does that seem even reasonable?
It's tight. We have a lot to accomplish this month. It's tight, but I can certainly endeavor to do so. We'd have to have the report in by the Wednesday before October 3rd.
All right. So Madam, okay, thank you, John. Madam Clerk, could you just read up a motion before I ask for debate? I was just getting a comment from staff as to availability to even perform said action.
Sure. Through your worship, if I may ask the question, just because there seems to be concerns with regards to timeline, would the mover be okay changing it to November 7th?
November 7th. November 7th?
I'm good with that.
He's good with that. I just thought, actually, if we could read it, because I need to get a seconder on the motion in the first place.
Thank you. So through your worship and further, okay, that staff be directed to contact the County of Simcoe and discuss options to permit all terrain vehicles on County of Simcoe roads within the Township of Clearview and report back to council on November 7th.
All right. Mr. Broderick, you comfortable with that motion? Okay, I'm looking for a seconder on Mr. Broderick's amendment. Councillor Leishman, thank you. All right, the amendment has been seconded, so I'll ask for comment. And as always, I would give the mover the opportunity to speak first, and then I'll go to whoever else. Mr. Broderick, anything further?
No, I think I've pretty much covered it in my preamble.
It's a preamble, all right. Thank you. Comments? Mr. Patterson, I see is up next. I'm just going to look up at the screen. Is there any comments in regards to the amendment? Okay, go with Mr. Patterson first.
Thank you. As the original intent in this motion was to ask for a bylaw to be brought back, I would assume that the public works people would require a pretty specific answer back from the county if we included that. I don't see how the county could actually entertain that, staff entertain that without going to council. So I don't see us even entertaining that if you want to get a bylaw before end of the year, into the new year. So it's a practical matter. Maybe I'm just guessing. I won't, for a different reason, for a consideration of the traffic management and the safety, I can't support the motion. I understand why you're doing it. It gives you more access, of course, but unfortunately, I just can't see that as being a reasonable thing to do. And when we dispose of this motion, I will also make an amendment to perhaps to help the situation.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've already got my working list of persons that are going to speak. And when I'm finished with Mr. Broderick's motion, I have Walker, McKechnie, and then the deputy mayor. So I'll put you down, Mr. Patterson, following that. Thank you. Is there anything further on the amendment? Yes, Connie Leishman. Hello, Councillor Leishman.
Hello. I did support this, or seconded it, because I think that will, if we do pass this, to allow all the ATVs in this section, it'll get people out of town. They won't be riding in town. And the other thing I see, which I've seen on the roads, is that when there are ATVs on it, other people slow down. The main traffic slows down. Now, I'm not an ATV driver. Yeah, personally, not my thing, but it doesn't mean that the responsible drivers couldn't handle this. I think they could. But as John said, the province and the feds have all said that they would actually allow it. But I mean, I don't know what their reasoning is, but I hear Councillor Broderick. I would support this.
All right. Thank you, Connie. Is there anybody else on the motion or the amendment, speaking to the amendment? Yes, Councillor or Deputy Mayor. Yes. Hello, Deputy Mayor.
I still wish to stay on the list for talking to the main motion when it comes up. But speaking strictly about this amendment, I don't think there's a chance in between now and Christmas that the county is going to be able to put a proper report together, considering it's the end of the term and people are still finishing holidays. I think it's just unrealistic to get that type of report within the time frame of this council. It's I think it's just an unrealistic motion at this stage, unless the motion states and then my question becomes, it's very confusing, because if you approve this amendment, then that means you're not approving the original motion because you're waiting for a report back. So it's a very confusing.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there anybody else? Nobody else? Mr. McKechnie, just looking, nope, nothing further. Okay. I'll give my comments and then I'm going to call the question on the amendment. I concur with what the Deputy Mayor says, that the County Council and county staff will have a very difficult time providing that information in that type of conversation, Mr. Broderick. While our CAO is being very generous with the staff time, I would suggest to him that would be a tremendous amount of work and a lot of meetings that would not prove to provide any action, given that the county staff will need to go to the county council of 32 and have a very long debate about access for the roads. So I think that practically it would not be not likely to see that even within 6 months. That being said, I would encourage any member of council and or members of the public to take a page from Ms. Ferguson and talk to the members of the staff ahead of time about these issues, so at least it is on their radar. That's my advice. But at this point, we have an amendment in front of us. And so I would suggest that it's time to vote on the amendment. Yes, Madam Clerk,
Hi.
you need a card.
Through your worship, just for clarification, just with regards to the deputy mayor's statement. So, and Councillor Broderick, please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe what your motion is to actually add that paragraph to the end of the original motion.
That's why I've read it too. It's an additional item.
So then what would happen is if council voted in favor of this amendment, then we would be voting on the main motion as amended, which would include that last paragraph within it. If council voted against this amendment, then it would still be the main motion that council would have to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're only dealing with the amendment at this time, which is our procedure. So our amendment is in front of us. We're discussing only the amendment. And as you stated, the amendment would then be included in the main motion, which has yet to be fully debated. And Mr. Deputy Mayor, I still have you on the list. Okay, nothing further? Yes, Councillor Patterson.
Could I just have the amendment read?
We're voting on the amendment and we'll have it read once more. Thank you.
Okay, so through your worship, the motion is to add the following paragraph to the end of the main motion, that staff be directed to contact the County of Simcoe and discuss options to permit all-terrain vehicles on County of Simcoe roads within the Township of Clearview and report back to council on November 7th.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Council, I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor of the amendment? Those opposed to the amendment? That does not carry. So thank you, Councillor Broderick. The amendment did not carry. Council, I'm going to move back to our list for the main motion. Main motion still stands. Mr. Walker is my next councillor. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not sure how to start this, but I'm very uncertain as to why this motion was brought forward at this time, as I have had no correspondence from any residents asking for change. When we decided on this bylaw, we had a very long, painful discussion with residents, with staff, and a very strong debate at this council table in order to come up with what we have now. It was a mediation between so that at least the main bylaw could go through and it would work, and that the Creemore area was exempt at that point in time. With the talk around this table tonight, I think that we are asking for staff report, county reports. I feel that I would like to entertain a motion to defer till the first meeting in May. And that the reason I'm saying that is that we are at a time in this council chambers where the old council will be finished in a couple of months and a new council will be coming in. I see this dragging on into a new council. I don't think that's fair. I think that the new council should have to deal with right off the bat with this if they so desire to move forward. And the reason I'm saying May is that the new council will have orientation sessions, budget, training, computer, committees. There's a lot on their plate at that first time to start. So I am putting a motion to defer this till May. And if other council members wish to add something with regards to staff reports, et cetera, then feel free to do so. But I'm looking for a seconder to defer the ATV till first meeting in May. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Again, as to our procedure, debates on deferring can only be related to the date that is deferred to. The councillor has presented a date, so I'm receiving that date and I'm asking for a seconder on the deferral. Is there a seconder on the deferral? Looking for a seconder. Connie Leishman. Connie Leishman, thank you. Councillor Leishman. again, just to remind, there's no debate on defer, but there is a debate on timing of the deferral. Any questions about the timing on the deferral? Nothing? Members of council, I'm prepared to call the motion once I have had the clerk prepare the motion. Have you got a motion? Did a motion to defer?
Thank you, your worship, that this item be deferred to the first meeting of May 2023.
Excellent. Anything? Okay, thank you. Members, yes, I see Mr. McKechnie. Mr. McKechnie, do you have a question about the date?
Yeah, it's in a roundabout way about the date. So it's a question for the clerk. So by doing this, we're now obligating the new council to deal with this in May. Is that correct? It's an obligation on the new council.
Yes, Mr. McKechnie, I'll assist the clerk and I'll look for her for clarification. In this scenario, as I understand it, the motion is on the table right now as a full motion made by Councillor Lamers and seconded by Councillor Deneen. And because those councillors are duly elected and are councillors at this time, that motion is an active council motion. And so it's now in the possession of council, and council can defer it and legally provide it to a future council meeting, regardless of whether the councillors are present or not who made the motion. Because
Okay.
it's actually in the possession of council. Madam Clerk, does that sound about right?
Your worship, that is correct. Thank you.
How about that? Just saying, I read the Municipal Act a bit, just saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, is that comfortable? Thank you. Anything further on the date? Seeing none. Council, there's a motion to defer. I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor of the deferral? Those opposed? I do not see the deputy mayor. The deputy mayor, can you speak so we can see the deputy mayor? Can I have the
Opposed. Opposed.
Opposed? Then that motion fails. That motion fails. Thank you. The motion fails, so we're not deferring. Carry on. I got a list here, Mr. Patterson. And Mr. McKechnie is the next. Thank you, Councillor Walker, by the way, for their motion. Mr. McKechnie is next on the motions.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. And first of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Walker for putting that motion forward to defer. And just a couple of comments. First of all, regarding that deferral, Robert, I know we weren't allowed to debate it, but I thought if the motion to defer did not pass, there's still the next council can still bring it forward again at some point in the future anyway, in some form. So, but anyway, I suppose my point to the original motion of Councillor Lamers is, I'm the representative for Ward 2. So Ward 2, along with Ward 5, are the most affected wards by this. And I have not had a single person contact me saying that they want Ward 2 opened up to ATVs. I emailed Councillor Lamers and I asked him for a list of the people that he talked to. And I never got a list of the people that he talked to. He just said he talked to people on the street. And as one of the people in the audience mentioned during public participation, this is not the way that we should be conducting governance here. We need to have hard facts. We need to take into account the people that have come out and expressed their opinion, the people that have sent emails, and like we have done on other matters. So we cannot be making decisions based on casual conversations on the street when we have the hard facts in front of us. So anyway, that's my opinion. I will not be supporting the motion. I'm a little bit, I'm surprised. I'm offended by Councillor Broderick's comment that the people of Ward 2 are afraid of the unknown. I don't think they're afraid of the unknown, John. They just don't want ATVs in Ward 2. So anyway, I will be opposing the motion. And once again, folks, I have not had a single person contact me to support this motion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor McKechnie. Okay. Deputy Mayor Burton, you are next on my list.
Are you able to see me or you can only hear me?
Yep, I can see you. Go
voice-wise?
ahead.
I have rough internet right now, so I'll do my best. If I lose you, I will reconnect. But I oppose this motion. Although it's within Councillor Lamer's rights to put forth such motion, I find it very inappropriate to put forth a motion like this weeks before an election. Maybe within his rights, but just totally inappropriate. First of all, the motion is flawed. It has flaws in it because he says one thing, that he wants people to come into Creemore, but when you read what the motion actually says, it's about opening up everything. What we also have to remember is that anything west of Creemore is NEC lands. It's the reserve, the Creemore Reserve, all these areas. There's no trails. There's no trails up in that area. I have not received one email asking to have, access opened. I've had numerous emails asking the bylaw to remain as it is. I've also had numerous emails about the complaints that are happening, about people are still trespassing, people are still going through the reserves, people are still going through the NEC, people are still driving up and down the river. So what that proves to me is that whole report that we had about the police and that it's flawed as well. It has no value because it didn't include the infractions that were happening that were not reported. It only dealt with the infractions that were reported. And I asked people, like, why didn't you report? Waste of time. I called bylaw calls OPP. They're there and gone. There's not a chance in hell of catching them. And so I think there's a lot more infractions happening than we realize. I think it's too soon to be looking at this. We worked hard to come up with a compromise that gave everybody, much more needed access. They still don't have access to the county roads. I cannot support this motion at this time.
Deputy Mayor, I'd just like to point out two things from your comments. One, you mentioned the Creemore Reserve. The Creemore Reserve is private. It's private lands. And so if anybody's riding an ATV in the Creemore Reserve, that's called trespassing because it's private lands. It has nothing to do with the municipality, nor any other level of government. So that reserve that's up there is reserve land, yes, but it's reserved in a private entity. It's not owned by any government organization. So it doesn't qualify for any type of enforcement other than OPP and trespassed. And so that's a big point to me. And by the way, Deputy Mayor, you and I both know that it is absolutely the right of any councillors to bring up these motions at any time. So that's why I mentioned we need to be respectful of each of our seats and positions here, that they can in fact be brought up. Mr. Deputy Mayor, thank you very much for your comment. I have Mr. Patterson, and then is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Connie, are you in? I see you're reaching for the card. Thank you. And Phyllis Deneen, thank you. Mr. Patterson, you're next.
Thank you. I have an amendment to provide, and I have to agree with many of the comments that were made. Councillor Walker's very right in saying that it was very comprehensive and stressful on the part of the community. Some comments have been made, and even tonight, that the community on some issues, on this one in particular, is divided. And I think it's time that we recognized that, first of all, I really do feel that the motion that was done back in 2020 has served us well, and it was done in good faith. It was also done recognizing not the divisive comments of many of the people that live in the restricted area, but if you're talking at an individual level, they're very deep concern for the environmental, the natural environment in that area. Remember that what is unique about this area is the only part of Clearview that's in the escarpment. That is not something to be ignored. The the issue with the road use and where people might go, which is why we always have to be concerned about good laws and good enforcement, is also land that's adjudicated by the NEC. And we have all three categories: natural area, protected area, and the rural area. The first two restrict motorized operation of any time, with the exception for the protected area, makes an exception for snowmobiles in the winter. That's the only motorized recreational vehicle allowed. In the third category, the rural area, it acknowledges that farm use is always permitted. It acknowledges that there may be, is the language of the NEC, permissible for recreation use. And their jurisdiction is on road allowances, not on our roads itself. They acknowledge that our roads have undergone EAs, environmental assessments, and that we have as a municipality full mandate to manage our roads. But those roads that end up into just the road allowance have been areas of great interest by the people that visit this area, and it was one of the prime reasons why we put the restrictions in that west corner of Clearview. I have talked to the NEC. I've talked to their senior policy advisor. I asked them about my interpretation of their position that was approved. Deputy Mayor can verify this. And they clearly see any opening up of traffic by this municipality for ATV use would be a change in use. And under that provision would require an application for a development permit. So once again, a lengthy delay in trying to achieve what's happening here. So there are prohibitions already, not of anyone's doing, not of anyone's fear, but of good stewardship of our lands, county roads, the NEC, and I would include the NVCA, where they have a little authority to prevent, and not nearly as strong as, well, nowhere near as strong as the NEC. They have a statutory requirement to protect environmentally sensitive lands. And they have made that clear to us as well. So the first comment I will make is I see no way that this council has the ability to direct our staff to prepare a bylaw on this matter, regardless of the interpretations we have. We just haven't given them enough instruction. And that's not my thought. That is that's the result of having my conversations with our staff itself. They would need more direction, more consultation, and we need more consultation with the public to give clear direction to change anything in this bylaw. So my motion the amendment to this motion would be, first of all, that any changes would be made through a staff report that would come back with alternatives that we can consider if any changes are required. In the interest of really trying to resolve the separation in what we feel is necessary to, I don't think we'll ever put this to rest, but at least come to some form of consensus, is that, and this is something that I mentioned to Councillor Broderick, who was the principal in this back in 2020, that after a couple summers of experience, that we could consider, if people felt there was hardship, I would consider making some form of a special provision to allow through special permitting, not a relaxation of the restrictions, those people who live in our settlement areas, as Councillor Lamers commented on in Dunedin and Creemore, to get direct access to an approved OFATV, Ontario Federation of ATV approved trail. The only one in our area now is the one that runs largely across east-west 18 and 19 and other roads on the side. That's the only approved trail. There are no approved trails in Creemore. There are no approved trails in the restricted area. There are no core services to be gained in the restricted area outside of Creemore, and there's very limited access permitted at the moment at the staff's request as it was presented last time this bylaw was created, 2020, in Creemore. For example, there would be, I would not approve changing access on Mill Street. All right. It just, I think that matter should have been settled. So one of the suggestions in talking with our residents in an effort to bring this thing to some form of agreement is that I would ask staff, and I've got the wording that I've passed to Brenda, sorry, to Barbara, but the essence of the report would be to consider I'll just read the words, a permitting option for those residents residing in the settlement area to see if that actually could be made effectively and I think to the satisfaction of those that would want it. So a special exemption. And that would be for direct access on the shortest route to the designated approved trail. And have that report come back. And that, of course, would include, I'm looking to see if I did include it. If I haven't, I will make an amendment to my my wording. And that would include some comprehensive and engagement with our public. So that sounds like it'll take time. It deserves that it should take time. And as we've demonstrated in all the other amendments, there's no way that we can get enough information now.
So, Councillor, you know that I've been very generous as the chair to continue to allow members of council to speak, but I had a real hard time following your exact amendment. You said an amendment a couple of times. And so since we're debating the initial motion and our procedures are to receive an amendment, do you have an amendment that you have? And you've already provided it. Pro tip to all members of council, if you're going to provide it to the clerk, maybe you provide it to the chair. So the chair has it as well. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through your worship. So looking at the, I'm just trying to, just bear with me for a moment. I'm just trying to come up with some words here. I'm going to read what the proposed amendment is. So it looks like the last two paragraphs of Councillor Lemur's motion is looking to be amended. So the last two paragraphs would say, and whereas some residents of Creemore and Dunedin have requested that the bylaw be amended to permit an exemption to those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin to permit ATV access to the approved ATV trail from their properties to trails. Now therefore be resolved that staff be directed to bring back a staff report recommending that the required amendments to bylaw 2071, including a special exemption permitting option for those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin, requiring for direct access by the shortest route to the designated approved OFATV trail.
And if I may, including
through your worship, I would with all due respect, I would recommend that Councilor Lamers, Mr. Lamers, or Councilor Lamers' motion was from himself. I believe the amendment is changing the intention of the proposed motion in front of council.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And I was sensitive to that as well. I kind of wanted to hear what he had to say before he even called for a seconder, but I appreciate where you're coming from, Councillor Patterson. But I think you are changing the direction of the motion. It may very well be in the direction that this council needs to go, but that may be a second motion or a future motion that can be presented to this council. So I'm unsure as to what to do with that. I just want to say that I wish I had seen this, and then I've been able to read it along with the rest of my materials. But the clerk has done a good job reviewing it. So I'm at this time looking to the clerk for her concern, because if it is in fact changing the direction of the motion, of the original motion, it wouldn't be considered an amendment. It would be considered a new motion. So, Madam Clerk, this is definitely outside of my area. Unless I have to go get my Municipal Act.
Through your worship, what I could recommend is if we can take a moment for Councillor Lamers to review the change to his motion. As I mentioned, it's changing the intent of why he was bringing his motion forward and what the overall direction to staff is. And if Councillor Lamers is agreeable to move forward and have that one on, then we could go ahead.
I see. So you're saying that could be considered a friendly. All right. I tell you what.
Never come across this.
Can I take the pleasure of council and call for a recess for a few minutes while the clerk and Councillor Lamers have a discussion? So we'll be in a brief recess. I would ask that you, Sarah, you don't need to stop the meeting, but I would just ask councillors to turn off their mics.
I'm asking that, yeah. What'd you need? Yeah, I'm not sure, but I am. Ah, okay.
Hello, we will begin here shortly. A few members of council have just taken an opportunity to have a bathroom break or whatever, or a fluid break. So we will return at about 20 after. All right, we will commence the meeting here again shortly. To the Deputy Mayor and Councillor McKechnie, thank you very much for hanging in there with us on the line. Nice to see you guys still there.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Just will advise you, my internet seems to be getting weaker and weaker as the meeting goes on. So you may lose me at some point, but I will endeavor to stay in.
I appreciate that. And Councillor McKechnie, I'm sure it's quite tiring for you. So we'll get with you in a moment.
Yeah, I've got my pajama bottoms on already, so
Okay.
I'm ready for bed.
I wish I was.
More information than we needed.
All right, members of council. All right. We will return to session. Sorry, council members. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you just report on your findings between Councillor Patterson and Councillor Lamers?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So in speaking with Councillor Lamers and actually Councillor Patterson also, I believe Councillor Lamers is looking to withdraw his motion, and Councillor Patterson is looking at putting a new motion on the table. That's correct?
Okay, Councillor Lamers, just a comment from you. Can I just have you tell the audience your intention? What are you thinking of doing?
Yeah, I'm withdrawing my motion, and we're going to go with Tom's motion to have a staff report brought up in May.
All right. So what I'll do then is, for the record, Madam Clerk, I will consider the motion withdrawn. To the seconder, Ms. Deneen, with motion, the original motion has been withdrawn. At this time then, since we're still on the topic, we will go to Mr. Patterson, who has a motion. And can we just get a clarification on the motion? And then at that point, I will ask for a seconder. Fair enough? Mr. Patterson, you have a motion, is that correct?
I feel I should say less and less and just get to the motion that we have in hand. And I think I appreciate the gesture made by Councillor Lamers and the help from Barbara. And I think we've done some wordsmithing there a little bit.
Okay, so
I'm prepared to put it on and move the motion.
All right, so Mr. Patterson is considered the mover. I'll let the clerk go ahead and read it, and then I'll look for a seconder. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Whereas Council adopted bylaw 2071 regulating off-road vehicles on certain municipal highways, and whereas Schedule B of bylaw 2071 restricts off-road vehicles from all roads and road allowances south of County Road 9 to Township of Mulmer, and all roads and road allowances west of County Road 42 and County Road 142 impacting Creemore and Dunedin. And whereas some residents of Creemore and Dunedin have requested that the bylaw be amended to permit an exemption to those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin to permit ATV access to the approved OFATV trails from their properties. Now therefore be it resolved that staff initiate a public engagement with regard to proposed permitting options and bring back a staff report recommending the required amendments to bylaw 2071, including a special exemption permitting option for those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin, requiring for direct access by the shortest route to the designated approved OFATV trail, and bring the report back to council in May 2023.
All right, council, I will look for a seconder on the motion. Is there a seconder on the motion? Councillor Lamers is the seconder. Thank you very much, Councillor Lamers, for that. Council, since we now have a new motion on the floor, I will look for Mr. Patterson as the mover. If you have anything you'd like to add, although we have had a pretty good discussion, I'll leave it with you. Tom, do you have anything more you want to add to your motion?
Well, I think it's important to know that this wasn't reached simply by myself or talking to one or two people. There's been a discussion going on in the area, both for and against any changes. And I think there was a compromise made by the groups, and I appreciate that. There's an expectation that people will continue to honor whatever comes out of this motion, should it be approved by council, the staff report. And I really do hope we commit ourselves to a good public engagement process as well. So that if there's nothing wrong with having two different opposed views, but if we never come together, that's how a community gets divided. Come together, let's have a forum, let's talk it through. I think there's a very reasonable suggestion. It's going to be some work to make it work, and I think we should dedicate ourselves to doing that. So I ask for your support.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, I would go to my virtual participants. The Deputy Mayor, Mr. McKechnie, I'm going to give you guys the first opportunity. Have any questions or comments or additions to the new motion as presented? I'll look to Councillor McKechnie first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, the the new motion seems a little bit unwieldy to me. Having said that, I will support it because I think that it's a good first step. So I will support it, even though I'm not sure how it's going to work in the long run here. But yeah, Tom's gone to a lot of work on this, so I'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Burton, do you have any comments or questions to the motion?
Councillor McKechnie, ditto, ditto, ditto.
All right, then. Members of council that are in the chambers, anything question? Yes, Councillor Deneen, please go right ahead.
Okay, so I want to make it very clear that I supported the first motion just to get it on the council on board so we could have a discussion about that. What I would like is, I'd like that reread, please, Barbara. I have a problem with the shortest route part on that.
All right, we're going to come to you a lot, Madam Clerk. Go ahead on the reread if you wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. Are you looking for just the last paragraph or the full motion?
I'm sorry, could I have the full one again, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to Councillor Deneen. Whereas Council adopted bylaw 2071 regulating off-road vehicles on certain municipal highways. And whereas Schedule B of bylaw 2071 restricts off-road vehicles from all roads and road allowances south of County Road 9 to Township of Mulmer, and all roads and road allowances west of County Road 42 and County Road 142 impacting Creemore and Dunedin. And whereas some residents of Creemore and Dunedin have requested that the bylaw be amended to permit an exemption to those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin to permit ATV access to the approved OFATV trail from their properties. Now therefore be it resolved that staff initiate a public engagement with regard to the proposed permitting options and bring back a staff report recommending the required amendments to bylaw 2071, including a special exemption permitting option for those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin, requiring for direct access by the shortest route to the designated approved OFATV trail, and bring back the report to council in May 2023.
Thank you. I don't think I can support it because I think that people should be able to go get gas in their vehicles. They should be able to stop at the restaurant on their way home if they feel that, if it's on the way home. I still don't like the segregation that people from outside the area can't go down to the pub or something like that if they wanted to use their ATVs. So I won't be supporting this unless someone wants to do a further friendly amendment, and I'm not going to do that at this time. Thanks.
So just for clarity, you are not bringing forward an amendment, but you've made your statement. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you for the input. At this time, I have Broderick and then Leishman. Is there anybody else? Okay, Mr. Broderick, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And with all due respect, Councillor Patterson, I know you don't see it as such, but this motion is still a form of othering. Okay, what's that? It is still a form of othering. We're limiting access, and we're limiting who comes into town, basically. Book 13 Ways to Destroy Your Community comes to mind. Anyways, I have an amendment that I'm not fully happy with, but I may be able to support. If you were to change that, two things, the shortest route, that's a problem. And the second thing is at the very minimum, it should be all Clearview residents. Let's not separate people. That's so wrong.
All right. You did say the word amendment. So what are you doing there? I have to be sensitive to this, council, as to what people say. And if you say the word amendment, you've caught my attention. So I need to know your intention is.
My intention is to add, rather than just Creemore residents, all Clearview residents, and to remove the wording on the shortest path.
All right. Madam Clerk, do you understand that? Or is there any questions before I look if there's a seconder?
Through your worship, I believe I understand the motion. And through your worship, is it good if I just read the last paragraph?
Sure.
Okay.
Just go ahead on that.
No problem. Now therefore be resolved that staff initiate a public engagement with regard to the proposed permitting options and bring back a staff report recommending the required amendments to bylaw 2071, including a special exemption permitting option for residents of Clearview and requiring direct access to the designated approved OFATV trail, and bring back the report to council in May 2023.
All right. Mr. Patterson, is that a friendly amendment?
Question first. Do you see a distinction between a direct route and shortest route? So then I would be willing to accept the friendly amendment on, and the wording fairly easily done, to direct route.
Is direct route acceptable? This is how we get a friendly amendment done.
That was the original wording in Councilor Lamer's.
Sorry.
It still sticks in my craw as it's still othering. I can persuade myself only by thinking that this is increasing access for more people. So I can live with it.
If I can interject, the point is that the motion as presented would bring us to a public consultation process, which would then bring us forward to an actual presentation of a new bylaw to a new council.
Exactly.
So the point of direct or routes or whatever could certainly be flushed through public consultation. So if you don't mind, I think it's kind of a moot point, guys. So who wants to call on that one? Are you good to go?
I think we're good to go.
All right. Is there anything further then on that amendment, Mr. Patterson, that you consider it a friendly?
Well, and when you say say again how you say all the rest of.
All Clearview residents.
All Clearview residents?
That's the very minimal.
But the spirit of this motion, and as was Councilor Lamer's, was that the people that felt that they were being denied access similar, not the same because of the nature of our NEC land, but they were being denied any access. And this proposal says, asking staff to prepare an option for us to discuss and the public to discuss that would give those people who do not have it now, like the rest of Clearview, access to the trail. Like right now, you can't leave Creemore from your home and go to the trail. Whereas if you're in Sunnydale or Nottawa, or Singhampton, Glen Huron, you can do so because of the permitted use roads that we have. And you can avoid the prohibited roads. And so that's all this is doing.
And that's exactly what I'm looking for, is the same parity as we have in the rest of the municipality. We should not be separating residents. I'm going to argue that until the cows come home.
Unfortunately, we're not talking about cattle today, but we are talking about ATVs. And if again, I can interject to Councillor Patterson, the point is all of our bylaws are designed to serve all residents of Clearview Township. The ask is for it to be Clearview Township again, which will then be in a public discussion period with all members of the public.
Yeah, and this in no way intends to exclude those. This is about protecting sensitive areas. That's why this was done here. But to bring it to a close, if you're asking me if it's a friendly amendment, I don't see it as a friendly amendment for the same reason that Councillor Lamers decided to withdraw his motion, because he saw that as a change to his motion. I see that as a change in the intent of mine. And actually, I don't understand why the concern, because we're actually opening up, not preventing others. So that to say in this motion that we're going to give all the rest of Clearview the access they already have is moot.
Okay, Tom.
What this does is provide
Yeah,
access. for
Deputy
those
Mayor,
who
I
don't.
acknowledge you. Just stand by. Go ahead, Barry, or go ahead,
Excuse me,
Mr. Broderick.
I was still talking.
Well, you're not, I thought you were finished.
I am finished now, but it's kind of.
Sorry about that. So I did honestly thought you were finished. Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. The reality is that would be the equivalent of us saying, Tom, Creemore residents cannot use the streets in Stayner. What you're saying is the same thing. It's the same.
May I? You have to have a reason. You have to have some judgment, which is, it's been said many times tonight. We've gone through this and arrived at this. Things like there's a strong representation, for example, from the BIA, not to congest any further Mill Street. You'll see later on tonight that we're making an attempt by making the road, Mill Street, more attractive, but also trying to accommodate the loss of parking. And we're going to go into that discussion. So it would be at least ignoring the dilemma they have and the efforts people are taking to allow you ATVs under this provision can get to the pub in Creemore, all right, as they're doing now, with very little offensive being reporting. I'm not condoning it. I'm not policing it. I'm simply saying the level of activity is not going to be appreciably changed here. This, except for those people who can't leave their garage without trailering and going to the approved OFATV trail.
All right.
So,
Mr. Patterson, the two items in the friendly were the first one, which we resolved. The second one, we did not. So we did not consider this now a friendly amendment. So Mr. Broderick, do you still stand by your amendment ask?
I think I have to.
I thought you might. Madam Clerk, could you please refer to us as to what the amendment is, and then I will call for a seconder.
Okay, and through your worship, if Councillor Broderick can confirm, if you don't mind, that the motion be amended by striking out the words in the last paragraph for those residents residing in the settlement area of Creemore and Dunedin, and replacing it with for all Clearview residents. So basically what we're doing is including, so it would say including a special exemption permitting options for all Clearview residents requiring direct access to the designated approved OFAT trail. It currently says for all those residents residing in the settlement area of Creemore and Dunedin.
Okay. So that's clear to me, and I'm hoping it's clear to members of council. Is there a seconder on the motion? No? Any seconders? Oh, okay. I look across the table and right beside me, Ms. Leishman puts her hand up. Thank you. Council, we've got this on the floor now with a seconder from Councillor Leishman. And I would ask if there's anybody, actually, I'll go to the mover first. That would be Mr. Broderick. Do you have any comments on the amendment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, this is just housekeeping. I don't understand why there's an issue here. It's road access. That's what we're talking about. It's legal in the province of Ontario, has been since 2003. It's about time we caught up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council to discuss the amendment? Councillor Leishman, and then Councillor McKechnie. I see you up there, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Leishman, go ahead.
Thank you. I've been sitting here listening to it all, and I like doing that because then I can form an opinion. But I do agree with what John's saying. I keep seconding and agreeing to these because I want more access for our ATV riders. But however it looks, I don't care how it looks. If we bring in the motion that Tom made, it will give access to the people in Duntroon and Creemore. And that's great. That's a first step. But John's making a leap, and I'm okay with making this leap because I think the permits should go to all residents of Clearview, because gas stations and grocery stores are in our settlement areas, and that's where they have to go. So if they go by them to get to the trails and they need something, then they can stop and do it. So I am agreeing to that, but I want to see some more access in this area because I believe it is discriminatory, and it does divide our township, and I don't like that. So I would have to agree with John as well.
All right, thank you. Councillor McKechnie, anybody else? Councillor McKechnie, go ahead. Doug?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the original, Tom's motion before John's amendment said that the ATVers in Creemore, Dunedin, Ward 5, Ward 2 there, the restricted area, they could get on their ATVs and go on a direct route to an ATV trail. That's what his motion states. Doesn't say anything about going to the pub or anything. Says goes direct route to an ATV trail. Fair enough. John comes along, makes the amendment, and says, well, I want to see that available to all of Clearview. Well, all of Clearview, or the rest of Clearview, already has that. Matter of fact, to go a little bit further, we may be restricting the rest of Clearview more, because right now they can go wherever they want. So now if we say to them, no, you have to go the direct route to an ATV trail. So according to John's amendment. So anyway, I cannot support the amendment. I think it's ambiguous, and I don't think that basically it's too ambiguous for me, and I don't think it's helpful. So.
All right, thank you, Councillor McKechnie. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burton is next. Go ahead, Barry.
Well, thank you. First of all, let me thank Councillor Patterson and Councillor Lamers for the effort that they did in a very short period of time to come to an agreement and a new motion. I support that original motion that Mr. Patterson read. I don't support this amendment. We're getting caught up in the tit for tat nonsense as far as I'm concerned. It's and to repeat what Councillor McKechnie said, they already have access. So I don't know why we have to change it. I don't support this amendment. And this is still what this motion says is going to go in front of the staff to come back with the recommendations. So staff may very well recommend that or make these changes. I think let's get on with it. Let's vote on the original motion that Mr. Patterson put out, and then wait and see what recommendations and that's what this report is actually doing. This motion is asking staff to come back with recommendations on routes and places to travel and things like that. So I'm not supporting this motion. I think we need to stop analyzing it to the nth degree and let's get on with it. We got other business to do tonight.
I thank you for your comments, Deputy Mayor. Anybody else on the amendment? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you would be prepared to read the amendment in a moment, I'll just add my comments. While I genuinely support the intent of the amendment, to be inclusive of all of Clearview Township. I think the issue here is the prohibited zone that was established back when we had this original discussion. The part of Councillor Patterson's original motion outside of the amendment that I particularly like is the fact that we will be going back to the staff with asking them for a report following a public consultation process. And a public consultation process, I believe, will flush out a lot of these concerns if there are genuinely people across Clearview Township who wish to bring forward their concerns, recommendations, questions, and items that they need to discuss. So in my opinion, I think that the passing of this amendment to the motion that's now been presented is just semantics, and we can pass it, we can fail it. It matters not. It's the primary motion that needs to be passed. Council, Madam Clerk, could you read the motion?
I can do so.
This is the amendment only.
Yes, through your worship, you have a mover by Councillor Broderick, seconded by Councillor Leishman. That the motion be amended by, that the last paragraph of the main motion be amended by striking out the words residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin and replacing them with residents residing in the township of Clearview. So it would read as follows: now therefore be resolved that staff initiate public engagement with regards to proposed permitting options, or bring back a report recommending the required amendments to bylaw 2071, including a special exemption permitting option for all Clearview residents requiring direct access to designated approved OFA TV trail, and bring back the report to the council in May 2023.
Fair enough. Council, discussion is completed. I'm prepared to call the motion. We're voting on the amendment. Again, this is the amendment. We're voting on the amendment. And thank you, Councillor Patterson. Anything further? Those in favor of this amendment? And opposed? And that fails. The motion does not carry. We're back to the original motion. On my list of original speakers, the deputy mayor was back on that list again. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I think I've already said it. I support this motion. I think it was good work between Councilor Lamers and Councilor Patterson, and like you say, your worship, I think a lot of this is going to get sorted out through the public participation and through the recommendations from staff. Let's move ahead. Let staff make their recommendations, and let's get those public meetings going.
Yeah, public consultation. Public participation, of course, is at every regular council meeting. For clarity, because there's been a lot of confusion of recent. It's a public consultation on this topic. That's what's being recommended. Anything further? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Other members of council? No other members of council? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have a mover by Councillor Patterson, seconder Councillor Lamers, whereas council adopted bylaw 2071, regulating off-road vehicles on certain municipal highways. And whereas Schedule B of bylaw 2071 restricts off-road vehicles from all roads and road allowances south of County Road 9 to Township of Mulmer, and all roads and road allowances west of County Road 42 and County Road 142 impacting Creemore and Dunedin. And whereas some residents of Creemore and Dunedin have requested that the bylaw be amended to permit an exemption to those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin to permit ATV access to approved OFA TV trails from their properties. Now therefore be resolved that staff initiate public engagement with regard to proposed permitting options and bring back a report recommending the required amendments to bylaw 2071, including a special exemption permitting option for those residents residing in the settlement areas of Creemore and Dunedin requiring direct access to the designated approved OFA TV trails, and bring the report back to council in May 2023.
Council, we've had a good debate. We've had a good discussion. I am prepared to cease the discussions. The now original motion has been presented by Mr. Patterson is on the floor. I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? Are there opposed? There's 2 opposed. Thank you. That does carry. Now, This is now complete as far as item 13.1. I'd like to give you a couple of comments as we look into the future. We will bring this forward as it would be. I have been acclaimed as your mayor, and so I can represent the next council fairly and say that this will come to the next council. I will make sure that it is delivered to the next council, and we will work this with our staff to prepare a proper public consultation. So that's my first commitment that I'll give you as your new mayor. Okay, members of council. We're going to move back to our regular agenda, and that takes us to item number 7, believe it or not. Okay. Council, approval of the council minutes recommendation, be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the minutes of the August 22nd, 2022 council meeting as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder on that motion? Broderick and Deneen, thank you. Any questions, members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. Business arising for the minutes, item 8. Anybody? Looking across the table and our virtual guests? No. Communications from the mayor. Council, item 9.1 is the Town of Kingsville letter request in regards to Bill 3. It's the Strong Mayor's Buildings Homes Act of 2022. And that's basically it as far as communications from the mayor. Other than I would like to mention that there was a proclamation for a flag raising today, which was suspended as a result of our national period of mourning. So the group from the Children's Cancer Fighting Children's Cancer Group, I don't have it right in front of me. I left it on my desk because we removed it, but that is being forwarded off to another time. So members of council, yes, Mr. Patterson.
So if you're asking for comments on 9.1.
Yes.
I think this is a big issue.
Sure it is.
That needs more than a letter, but this is usually how it starts. I would be in favor of sending in a letter indicating that we are going to support more public engagement on this. The thing I noted, I think the word public was mentioned once in the letter. And I understand the respect that the town of Kingsville would give to their residents, but I think it would strengthen this letter if we were to send one, and I would ask that we do, if we stress the fact that, yes, it does have some of the concerns they mentioned about staff and council relationship, but I think the overwhelming impact is on our residents. And their ability to know that their community is being governed in a much stronger way than what's being proposed here. So I would be in favor of sending in a letter. I would be in favor of discussing it further at the next meeting, because I think we do have to put some thought into it. So I would hold off any amendment, any request I would have now until next meeting. That would be my view. I'd be willing to entertain a motion, but right now I would like to have a little more discussion on it. And this would also give the public.
You're looking to defer this to the next meeting?
I don't have to defer it. You can just receive it now and I'll bring in a report and ask for.
Well, I mean, if we can support the recommendation from the city of town of Kingsville, village of, I'm not sure. We can just support it and add our signature to it by giving them a motion that we support their recommendation.
I'll make that motion, but I would like to add a succinct comment about the impact on our public.
And that's up to you as an individual member of council, if that's what you wish to do.
I'll send in a succinct comment of mine.
There you go. So we have a motion to.
With trust from my colleagues.
We have a motion to support the letter from Kingsville? Madam Clerk, pick it up there, would you please?
Thank you, Your Worship. The Council of the Township of Clearview hereby supports the town of Kingsville with regard to their opposition to Bill 3, Strong Mayor's Building Act to 2022.
Moved by Councillor Patterson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Deneen, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's anything else in communications from the mayor. So recommendation be it resolved, the council of the township of Clearview hereby receive communications listed as item 9.1 on the agenda and file as information. Can I have a mover? Mr. Walker, seconded by Mr. Lamers. Those in favor? Thank you. Also unanimous. Thank you. Looking up at the screen, by the way, too, boys. Not forgetting you up there. County reports. There were no specific county reports received, other than I would like to emphasize two things. One, that there is a survey still online in regards to the rail trail, or the rail that goes trail between Essa Township and Clearview Township, the county-owned trail. So there's still a survey online for people to submit their information, comments, and so on. And the second thing is, later on in September, we're going to be recognizing and honoring forestry in Simcoe County. And I will be joining His Worship the Warden at a celebration at the Simcoe County Museum on the 24th, which happens to be the same weekend as our Great Northern Exhibition, but I will get to both. And we'll be recognizing forestry in our beautiful county of Simcoe. So that's the two things that I know are coming up. If I could just look to the Deputy Mayor, do you have anything you want to add in regards to county reports, Deputy Mayor?
No, you took the words out of my mouth, Your Worship. That's about it. We've been off for the month, and we have our first meeting starting tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I may just stay right here and join the meeting from here. Members of council, I have nothing further on county reports. So I'm going to move to item 11, which is our council reports and community announcements. So we can go around the table real quick. Looking up at Councillor McKechnie, he's going to go first. Then I'm going to defer to the Deputy Mayor. And then I'm going to go to Walker. Go ahead, Doug McKechnie.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So I have nothing to report because I've been away for the last few weeks and on a much delayed vacation. And I just wanted to mention that if anyone has been trying to contact me, my email service through the township has not been working very well. There's the IT department decided to change things while I was away, and I haven't been able to access my emails very well. So I apologize if I haven't responded to some of you folk. Anyway, and that's about it. And if you don't mind, Your Worship, I have an early train to catch, and it's getting late here, and I wouldn't mind signing off now and saying goodnight. So.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. McKechnie. Just before you run on the IT question, signing on and logging into your email directly from the website is the fastest way to do it. That's what I was able to do. And if you have trouble, you could actually reach out directly to Magdalena, or you could arrange for her to communicate with you. I'm not sure if you've done that or not, but there has been a change to our email server, and I trust the sage advice we get from our IT security people.
Yeah, I've tried all that, but because I'm overseas and I have a new SIM card for my phone for that multiple verification type thing, and a different internet provider, I wasn't able to do it. But I'll be back in the country here very shortly, within the next few days, and I'll pop in and see Magdalena then and get it all sorted out. So.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Councillor McKechnie. We'll do our best to keep you up to date when you get back.
Okay. Have
All
a good
the
night.
best.
I'm signing off.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay.
All right. Deputy Mayor Burton, I'll go to you next. Deputy Mayor.
Well, I have nothing to add. Thank you. Just been, what can I tell you, busy times. Well, let you, that's no, really nothing else to add.
All right. Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the at the rest of this meeting, as well as tomorrow morning at county. Mr. Walker, how are you doing over there, Robert?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just fine. Just a couple things. First of all, the Youth Center open house on August 30th. I was there. Very enjoyable. Had a tour. The young people were touring the adults through and telling us about the various points of their youth center. Very energetic. They were very happy to show the old people the young stuff and what they're doing, the art, the kitchen, and even a challenge to game of pool, but I declined because they'd like to beat the tar out of me. Anyways, that was just great. And to the staff, thank you very much. It was a job well done. To Dan and to Mike, Ron, and Dan Perot, construction on Lock Avenue. Thank you. Job well done. I talked to a resident there and they were nothing but kudos for the construction company and their ability to communicate with the residents when things are happening and trying to help them get in and out of their driveways on a regular basis. The next two things are to deal with a couple of our service clubs in Clearview. First of all, thank you to the Shriners for their fish dinner on Saturday night. Councilor Broderick, you were obviously away still, but we went out and really enjoyable, and we were early because I had a birthday party, so it worked out really well. The birthday party was cake and ice cream for a granddaughter, so no better place to go out to Shriners for supper first. So it worked out really well. Great food, and again, great hospitality from the members there, so pass that on. Thank you very much. And the other is to the Stainer Lions Club, who are sold out of their card draw tickets. The draw was supposed to be in October, and because we are allowed to move the date forward if we're totally sold out, the draw will be on Friday night at the GNE as part of the opening ceremonies. So kudos to those service clubs. We know where their monies go back into the community to help. And so that's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, congratulations to the Lions Club, great organization in our community that does a lot of fundraising for great community projects. So, and thank you to everyone for buying tickets. We'll look forward to the winning ticket being drawn as a Mustang owner myself. Okay, Councillor Lamers, you're next, then Mr. Patterson. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to thank Dan for having the sidewalk installed on Conogo Dine in New Lowell. He said we'd get that in before fall, and he did. So thank him for that and getting it all done. And that's about it.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Lamers. Appreciate that. Councillor Patterson, you're next, then Ms. Deneen.
Thank you. Did some, it was following the NVCA meeting. There were some very interesting staff reports that came out, and I think for our climate change action plan, it would be some good reference material in terms of what our part within the watershed could be. We also, at the meeting of the NVCA board, took a look at our preliminary budget guidance and basically approved, at least accepted a report. The target is about $150,000 increase in the levy across all the municipalities served by the NVCA. Also, following the NVCA efforts with the landowners along the Mad River and seeking land owner agreements for bank stabilization, and in particular with some of their owners, some of the residents on Elizabeth Street here in Creemore and in the Carruthers Park. So Fred Dobbs, if you're familiar with Fred, is doing some good work with some contract morphologists to see what we can do to keep a healthy Mad River flowing through our community. And I will stop there. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Janine.
Hi there.
Hi there.
I'll turn that on. So I just, a few things. I went to the youth center open house as well, and it was really interesting. It's only my I'd say my third time in. And every time I go, I learn something a little bit more about the good stuff they do there. And welcoming the kids back to school and looking forward to the return of the in-person GNE finally. Yay. It's Friday, September 23rd at 9 o'clock. And I guess I get to run I get to work on the gates that evening, which is going to be a new experience. Wanted to mention that the Small Halls, Nottawa Hall, is having the firemen are doing a pancake breakfast on October 2nd at 8:30 in the morning, 8:30 till 11, I believe. I keep asking about whether or not you have to have tickets ahead. I guess that'll be something that they're going to have to decide. But I'll keep people posted on that. So that's a pancake breakfast by the firemen, October 2nd, 8:30 to 11. And on October 15th, we have an apple harvest barbecue at the Ottawa Hall as well. It takes place at 11 or at 5:30 in the afternoon. And it's a barbecue. A local caterer, Babs and Castles, is going to do the food for us. And then there's a concert slash dance, if you will, afterwards. And the entertainment is being put on by Not Ottawa. And the tickets, I understand, are selling pretty quickly, and you can get them through the Clearview website. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I look forward to that. I'm going to go to Councillor Leishman.
Thank you. Yeah, my ward, or was my ward, is full of election signs right now.
How about
that? The landscape has changed a bit, yes. And it's very interesting to watch what's going on. So, and I'm standing back and watching what's going on. So it's even more interesting. I would like to thank the Garden Club of Stayner and the Horticultural Society of Creemore for the lovely flowers and the gardens that they kept up this summer. I don't know about you, but I traveled around and saw these beautiful arrangements and the gardens. And boy, our township looked pretty good this summer, and I was quite proud of it. So that was really nice. I also like to thank the Clearview Chamber and the BIA for participating in the flowers, big time, planting them and arranging them, and staff for finding the pots, because there are those ever watering pots and they're great. So thank you so much for all the people that were involved in that. And don't forget, Hot Pants is in Clearview on the 29th, and it's going to be a hot time. So come on out and get your tickets, because they're a good group and they're worth it. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Broderick, do you have anything further?
Just a couple things.
Just a couple pages? I see. I'm just looking over at your notes. My goodness. Okay, go ahead.
Just August 26th, I took part in the Clearview Chamber of Commerce Selection Committee for the awards that are coming up. That's this Saturday, if I remember correctly. October the 30th, attended the Clearview Youth Center open house as well, and it was quite interesting. All of the good things that they're doing there, I can't commend them enough for it. Well, the last week we've been on holidays, which is kind of a battery recharge thing for us. Backroads Rally is coming up on October the 2nd with the small halls. And tomorrow night there is the Creemore BIA meeting, which I will be attending as well. That's about it for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor. I got a few items I'd like to mention, as I was unable to attend our last meeting, as my wife and I were on a little bit of a break, a little holiday, and I appreciated the deputy mayor for stepping in and chairing the last meeting. But I do want to mention, some time ago, on the 20th, we held a celebration in Creemore at the Creemore Village Green, and I just want to acknowledge all the great work of the Creemore Foundation who put that together. And I want to acknowledge that that was a wonderful, tremendous gift that was given to Clearview Township by the foundation. The amount of work that was done was tremendous, and I was truly honored to be there to help open that. And it was very touched by all the great comments of people talking about volunteers in our community. It is something that I truly believe in, and I was really pleased by the great event that was held. And it's just a beautiful asset. In fact, I must say, stopping in Creemore later in the evening, perhaps about this hour at night, when the sun's down and the lights are on and the fountain's running, it's spectacular. the evening hours in the park. Just beautiful down there. So I just want to acknowledge and thank the foundation for their work. I also want to acknowledge a great friend of Clearview Township who's been a bit of a contractor, a bit of an employee, but always a cheerleader for Clearview. Lily and Charlie White held their 50th wedding anniversary, so congratulations to them. They're just amazing people. I want to mention that MPP Saunderson contacted me. We've had a couple of conversations about various issues, but the good news is that it is confirmed he is going to be opening his constituency office right here in Clearview Township, right in Stayner. So we're very pleased for him to be doing that, and I look forward to building and continuing our relationship with MPP Saunderson. What was the other thing? Oh, okay. So Saturday, wow, poultry in motion. Good job done, Troon. The chicken races was fantastic. The kids loved it. The obstacle course was like, it was an obstacle for some of the chicken handlers. Like, it was a great little event. They did a really good job. Duntroon volunteers always impress me, and they just did a really, really fun time. And the people came out and enjoyed it. And they had a little bit of some food was there, a taste of Clearview, and then they had an event. So Small Halls is underway, folks. It's a little different. Get out and get your tickets. So thank you, Councillor Deneen, for reminding me. I do have tickets for the 15th, but I do not have my pancake breakfast tickets for the 2nd. But I've already told the firefighters I'm going to be there to help them anyway. So anyway, I'll buy a ticket on the spot. So that's all I have for my reporting, but thank you very much, everyone. Council, we're going to move on. Unless there's anything further from this section, I do want to acknowledge one thing. I did receive a quick text message from Deputy Mayor Burton. He is, in fact, having internet problems, so I'm not sure if he's stuck or frozen up there, but he has indicated that he probably will be signing off. So we'll wish him all the best. And for the purposes of the meeting, Madam Clerk, we'll carry on with the quorum of members that are here in the chambers. Okay. All right. Item number 12 is our department reports and bylaws. We have a few items. Okay. PB 044-2022. It's in regards to Bill 109, the More Houses for All Act. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township Clearview. Hereby one. Receive report PB 044-2022. Again, Bill 109, More Houses for All Act, dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, direct staff to initiate an official plan amendment to provide complete application requirements. Item 3, direct staff to initiate an amendment for replacement to pre-consultation bylaw number 08-06. And item 4, direct staff to initiate an update to the delegation bylaw 20-16 to delegate approvals of site plan agreements and lifting holding in the zoning bylaw to staff. And item 5, direct staff to initiate an update to the fee and charges bylaw 17-110 in accordance with the recommendations outlined in report PB 044-2022. Okay, so there's a lot of material in this recommendation. I know Mayor is here. We'll have lots to talk about. Before I look for the mover and seconder, I just want to acknowledge that there are several items in here. And so if there's any opportunity for us to have clarity on every item during the presentation, that'd be great. I will look for a mover and seconder on this motion. Mr. Lamers, Mr. Walker, thank you very much. I'm going to look your way next, okay? Just saying, I keep looking that way because there's more people over there. All right, Ms. Burton, you've got quite a report here with a lot of interesting items. So, and I mean, my reading of it was, I get it. This act is coming in and we do need to sort of change some of our procedures when it comes to pre-consultation for sure and the delegation to staff. So, Mayor, why don't you outline for us what it is, why this is so important, and can you give me a highlight on each one?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I will do that highlight. So the act is already, some parts of the act are already in effect, but some of them come in to effect on January 1st. So the first part is that now the province has decided that if municipalities do not approve zoning bylaw amendments and site plan agreements within a certain time frame, we have to start refunding the application fees back. I guess the unfortunate thing is that the municipality is only one part of the process. The applicants, are a large part. And when they submit to us, we have to do a review, and sometimes we go back and forth, particularly when there's engineering involved. And it simply isn't in our control to meet these timelines. So that's very unfortunate, and yet we have to refund application fees. So just as a highlight, this bill has actually caused municipalities all across Ontario to spend an awful lot of time scrambling, unfortunately, in administration, rather than really sticking to what I think their province is trying to have us do, which is get houses built. So it's really rather, a little frustrating for a planner. So you've got a chart here that within, 93 months of a zoning amendment, 50% gets refunded, 5 months, 75%, 7 months, 100%, and then zoning bylaws and concurrent, and then site plan agreements. So site plan agreements, anyone who makes a site plan agreement application as of July 1st of this year, so we're already into that approval goes through staff. And if it's not approved within 2 short months, it's a 50% refund. And again, given all the engineering that's involved in these things with stormwater management and lot grading and drainage and stuff, that's just an impossibility. The 3 months is 75%, and then the 7 months is 100%. So the next change, now thankfully for Clearview, it's not a huge financial hit for us when we look at how much money that we take in application fees. And this changes from municipality to municipality. Some municipalities are in the millions of dollars in application fees, and they have, their application fees can be tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our application fees are very modest. And the reason that they are is that we do try to encourage people to come through our door and do the proper process rather than try to run their businesses illegally and stuff. And I've said, for nearly my entire career, that if we make things just too difficult, that people will find another way around the municipality rather than come through our door and do things. And then we're into an enforcement issue. And that's really unfortunate for everyone. So, we've always tried to do our best here at the township to keep fees reasonable and to do our best to help and guide and streamline the process as much as we can. So just to give you an idea, in 2021, we only collected $29,000 in zoning bylaw amendments. And also in 2021, we only collected $38,000 in site plan agreements. So, very modest fees. One of the other changes, and we do have some strategies, but I'll get to that next. The other change is the mandatory approval of site plan agreements. I mentioned that to you already. Another process is they have decided to allow municipalities to reinstate lapsed draft plan approvals. This one is actually good. And the reason is because it's relatively easy for a 3-year or a 5-year subdivision to lapse. And even if it lapses a day, municipalities were not able to extend that. And that can be very unfortunate because every time we ask a developer to go back to the drawing board and start again, not only does it mean a lot of administration for staff, but it also adds to the cost of bringing new houses on to the market. So this is actually something that I support. The other one is a community infrastructure and housing accelerator tool. That's kind of a revised minister zoning order. It allows the minister to approve applications, basically zoning applications to allow development. Normally in a minister's zoning order, there's no public process. It's just done by the minister. However, in this process, it's a bit more of a blend where the public process is up to the municipality, and then the municipality makes a recommendation to the minister, and then the minister takes it from there. However, if the minister after an approval decides to make a change, there's no public process. The minister can make that change. So it does, there's always that challenge that the public wouldn't be consulted. Another item is change to the surety bonds. Right now, we take a irrevocable letter of credit through the bank that we can cash, and typically we would not have a court challenge to cash that work. Or to cash those letters of credit. That is done when you have a developer who defaults or doesn't get the work done appropriately, and the municipality has to go in and do the work. And the whole point of having securities for plans of subdivision and things like that is so that we can safeguard the people who are buying those houses, that indeed they're going to be able to have a house that they're going to move into that's on a proper street with proper street lighting and services that work and things like that. So the process to manage this has been around the block a few times already, which is why it's coming to you at this time and not like a month or two earlier, because we were all scrambling and looking at what other municipalities are doing. Other municipalities are doing all sorts of things to ensure that they're protecting their taxpayers from having to refund applications and things like that, because it's really would be unfortunate if a developer or somebody putting forward an application, for whatever reason sits on the application, or their consultants take a little extra long, or, that maybe the information coming in is really in need of a lot of work by our peer reviewers and our municipal staff. And so sometimes it takes time, and it would be unfortunate if our taxpayers had to pay for that application. So many municipalities have done all sorts of things, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but we at the planning department and in consultation with other departments, we bent ourselves all out of shape in every possible way to try to figure out how we could try to reduce the time it takes to do things, so that we could attempt to meet some of these timelines. And in the end, everything we came up with really just added to the timelines and added to, a lot of upfront risk to the applicant or a lot of downstream risk to the municipality. And really what we're coming forward with is we feel that what we do the best we can, and it's pretty much the best process we can think of. We couldn't think of any better way for Clearview Township to go ahead than basically as we have been going ahead now. However, there are some things that we do have to do in order to implement this bill, notwithstanding, making any kind of major changes to how we do business. And that's where we came up with the recommendations, where we do need to make sure we have complete applications for site plans and things like that in our official plan amendment. As you know, we are working on our official plan, or rather in our official plan. As you know, we're working on that. So just the point of tonight is really to let council and the public know what is happening. And then we're going to take steps towards these initiatives. Not everything is going to come at you, in the next meeting or in the next 2 meetings. This is going to take a little bit of time. So we're looking at official plan changes for complete application requirements that will likely be done through our new official plan process. Could potentially be sooner than that if we need to. We are looking at replacing or amending our pre-consultation bylaw to ensure that it's mandatory for things like site plan approvals, and that we have some upfront requirements. We need to ensure that we have really the applicants need to ensure that they're giving us the best pre-consultation that they can. We need to get more people around the table to give the best response at that point to applicants that we can. And that may include having our peer review engineering consultant there. So we may need to be taking a deposit for that, so that when we get that first application coming in, that it's complete and that it's further ahead in the process than it is now. So that's the purpose of that. We are looking at updating the delegation bylaw. That is really just a matter to ensure that we are meeting today's requirements, that site plan agreements are approved by staff. Not something we asked for, but is delegated mandatory requirement. Then also a lot of municipalities are including lifting the holding in that delegation bylaw. That is actually a very simple thing for staff to do, because there are a set of requirements that you need in order to lift the holding. And it will help us from adding extra administration to staff that we could otherwise do to help us keep other applications moving forward. And then the last thing is the fees and charges bylaw, and that's largely for the pre-consultation fees so that we can get a deposit, and we will need that to be a bit more robust. Originally, we were thinking around $500, but plus a deposit of perhaps $1,000. But then we thought maybe we shouldn't put any actual amount in the recommendation because we don't want to hold you to an actual amount until we come back with a fee bylaw. And I know one thing that we've been talking about at senior management team is to do that basically once a year as best we can. So we're going to be initiating that shortly, probably with all the departments, and bringing something to you for sort of a January 1st implementation. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
All right, Mara, a lot of material there, a lot of complex discussion about the issues that are around official plan amendments and our pre-consultation and how we do business, which actually is all in the bill 109. So I think that's good information. I also believe it's good that staff are making these recommendations at this time to council that bring forward some consistency and some improved level of service, perhaps, that we'll have it all there. If I may, before I go to members of council for comments, Mara, the one thing that stands out to me is where you're asking, or it's asking for staff to be delegated the approvals for site plan agreements. That would need to be concurrent with the opinions of council, that council can see all the site plans, and then we receive it as a full motion. As compared to, debating it, we just need to see what it would be and be able to send it back to you. So is there still going to be a mechanism where staff members can communicate with members of staff for comment, much like you would seek comments from other commenting agencies? Mara.
Yes, thank you. I think we would like a mechanism because we want to make sure that council is aware of the applications and what's moving forward and that sort of thing. But the intent, I think, for the province is that site plans not be political, because in a lot of ways, it's sort of like issuing a building permit, that once somebody meets the requirements of the zoning bylaw, that really it's a sort of it can be a staff identified process. So I think that's really where the province was coming, is much like a building permit. But we certainly can look at a means to ensure that council is aware of everything that we're doing. We as staff certainly don't want to be put in a situation where we would do something that, council wouldn't be supportive of. So that's certainly a concern about this sort of delegation. But again, if you compare it to a building permit, it's
absolutely. I don't want to get into a debate about building permits, because it's true. I mean, there's a confidentiality between the property owner and the municipality when they enter into a building permit application on something that's already zoned for that area. So it's true. It's very confidential. The business about site plan approval, though, I think that you ask other agencies for comment. You ask infrastructure, hydro, Bell, for information. And yet you're saying that this would not be something that council as a whole could comment on. And yet members of the public can comment on it, but council as a whole wouldn't be involved in that, is what you're suggesting.
Well, I haven't thought through that far along, to be honest. Basically the province dumped this on us very quickly and said, staff, you're in charge of approving site plan approvals. But we certainly do involve outside agencies, the Ministry of Transportation, if they're on a highway, the county, and so on. So I don't think that staff would have a concern with asking council. It is not a public process in the sense that it's not a public meeting, but we here at the township have always been open to public comments on site plan agreements, and so, we certainly do try to take all of that into consideration. So I think it's something that we might have to look at a little bit more work as to exactly how it would work. But if council has some suggestions for us and how we can make this work, we're more than happy to hear it and see what we can do to make this process work for everyone.
Thank you, Mara. All right. I could talk about this for a while, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to go to council. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to bring forward? Mr. Patterson?
I'll just pick up on that. Our last comment in terms of the site plan, we wouldn't be having the discussion that we
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 just
had
had,
on the
right?
application if we don't have it. So I agree with the mayor's comments. And I'm not really too keen on approving this tonight, other than approving the report. I know there's a statutory obligations put down here, but I'd like to know how we're going to still continue to allow our public to, what are we here for? For significant changes to our community. And we're just going to sit back. So I'll tell you right now, I'll receive it. But I want to know what we're doing to continue our consultation. I don't have to raise my hand and count the votes to be able to understand what's happening in my community. But I want to be influential in terms of the decisions I made. And I don't want to be driven solely by a developer who comes into our community with his plan and we don't have ours. If we're going to play the game this way, then we better sit down and have a community plan that we lay out, that developers come and invest in, and then we can discuss about cutting red tape because they meet our plan, the broad plan, not theirs.
That's a strong statement. Thank you. Ms. Burton. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Worship. We in the planning department have not been particularly pleased with this bill. We don't feel that planning departments of the local level are really well understood by the province when it comes to this. So, I certainly understand Councillor Patterson's frustration with this. And we'll do everything that we can to work with council and the public to try to find a way to make it work. So as I said, these things are something that we're looking at bringing down bit by bit. And actually the delegation bylaw was sort of the first piece of the pie that we were hoping to bring forward to council. So happy to have any suggestions on a process we can certainly look at as we write that bylaw, how we can make that work better. And another option, of course, is for council to express their concerns to our MPP about this bill. And perhaps something can change with the bill at some point.
If I may.
Yes, get rid of.
So it's over for us, this council. I hope the new council, anyone out there that's going to be on the new council, you need to have a workshop on this stuff really quick to understand what this council just lost and what you're actually, and I agree with Mara. We could find workarounds. I'm glad to hear the planning groups. That was not my main point. But I want just one, but you triggered it off, Mayor. So I got going on that one. Give us a little bit more on the front load complete application, because that one seems like that seems almost exclusionary for our public consultation.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mara.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Patterson. Yeah, some municipalities are looking at actually having conservation authority approvals prior to an application. It could be provincial approvals, Ministry of the Environment, Ministry of Transportation. Maybe if you do need a road widening for a site plan application, maybe that's something that is done prior to an application. So for some of these things take time, and some municipalities are putting all of this stuff or a lot of it up front before you can make a complete application. The challenge with that approach, of course, is that you're asking our investors to, investors in the township and businesses and things like that, to spend a whole heck of a lot when they don't even have an approval yet for maybe a zoning amendment, or we haven't given them any good feedback on engineering. I mean, site plans, for example, are incredibly challenging because there are many, many competing interests. And at the staff level, we have to balance, where the snow is going to go and make sure that it's not on any sort of systems that could cause any kind of backing up. And then, truck turning movements and garbage pickup and a whole host of things that are often competing with one another, and we have to work through them. And that's not something that just happens overnight. But so if we put that all up front, and then the applicant brings in their complete application, and then we find that they have to go back to the drawing board because they missed something and it doesn't work. And so now they have to go back and do all their studies again. Or do addendums to all of their studies, or whatever the case may be. or they don't even get an approval and they've spent a lot of money. And that puts pressure on us. I mean, around the table here, as staff and council, I mean, we're human and we want to help people, get to the finish line. And it is hard when somebody spent a lot of money to say, I'm sorry, this doesn't work. So we like to, and not only that, but if there's a public process with the zoning amendment, if you have too much done up front, then the public feels that it's a fait accompli, and it's difficult to take all of their concerns into consideration. So the reason that we have the process kind of the way that we run it now is so that we have something that's good enough to show the public, but isn't necessarily finished, because we want to make sure that we can bring whatever input we receive through the public into the plans to make some adjustments, particularly with zoning amendments, so that when we go forward with the site plan or whatever, we've already crossed those T's and dots those I's, and we know how this is going to work as best we can. This process with either upfronting everything or just making everything a condition of the approval just causes some problems with having to rework the site again and again, and it will add to the length of time for approvals. That is something that we're quite concerned about. There's a balance, and we're going to do our best to try to find the balance.
Thank you. This would eliminate, in my mind, pre-servicing agreements.
Well, subdivisions are not as much of the issue. It's when it comes to, it's the site plans and the rezonings for refunding. So if you're doing a pre-servicing agreement under a subdivision, that wouldn't be affected by this. That's not to say we still don't want, good engineering submissions up front, because we certainly do want that. But applications are not being refunded.
Members of council, anything further? Thank you, Councillor Patterson. All excellent, good points. Members of council, anything further? I'd like to just further some comments. I think we should simply receive this entire report and point out all of the items. We can vote on them and receive them. The point is that all of these items will be items that will be brought back to council. We do not have a pre-consultation bylaw amendment without it actually being presented to council for us to amend. So there will be a supplemental report that'll be very detailed about how this impacts this township and what changes our staff are recommending. Very frustrating. This council and future councils are going to have to be dealing with this for sure. As an aside, you've heard me talk about the acrobatics you have to do for the Municipal Act, and to be the chair of this meeting, I can't imagine how this is going to go well either. Members of council, anything further? Well, the first item says receive, direct staff to initiate a plan. Well, they have to bring it back to us. Direct staff to initiate an amendment to replace pre-consultation bylaw. They have to bring that back to us. Direct staff to initiate update to delegation bylaw. So that means they have to bring it back to us. And then direct staff to update the fees and charges bylaw. That also has to be brought back to us. So every one of these items is returning to council. That's the way I look at it. Madam or Ms. Burton, anything final on that?
No. Thank you.
Okay, so I've interpreted it correctly.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, miracles of miracles. Members of council, anything further? I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. I know. Yeah. Dealer's choice on this one. Thank you, Mara. We got more to talk about. I know we have our building department activities report. I know our chief building official has been patiently waiting. Hello, Mr. McLeod. I'll read the item and then I'll go to you, sir. Recommendation be it resolved. The Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PB 048 2022 building department activities report for the months of April and June 2022 for information. Very busy months. Mover and seconder, Mr. Broderick, seconded by, can I have a seconder? Ms. Deneen, Councilor Deneen, thank you. Hey, Scott.
Good evening, Council and Your Worship. You have the report before you. It just, simply illustrates the tremendous activity that we've had during the months of April through June. And you'll see the same trend is happening. Our number of permits the actual number of permits for that time period isn't up significantly over the previous year, but certainly the construction value and associated fees are reflective of the scale of the projects that have been before us during this time period. Beyond that, I'm certainly available to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the work of the building department. Certainly a lot of work here. Any members of council with any questions to Mr. McLeod? Seeing none, thank you, Scott. We have a mover and seconder, and I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries with members present unanimous. Thank you. All right, moving on. Page 4, red line revision. Good times to do that. Zoning bylaw amendment and draft bylaw extension in regards to 7662 Highway 26 in Stayner. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PB 051-2022 as a red line revision, zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan extension for 7662 Highway 26 Stayner dated September 12, 2022. And item 2, approve Emerald Creek draft plan of subdivision for the lands municipally known as 7662 Highway 26 Stayner dated May 20, 2022, showing a total of 177 units and attached as Appendix F to the report PB 051-2022, dated September 12, 2022. Item 3, that bylaw 2274, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 06-54, be presented to council for approval. Item 4, approve a draft plan extension for an additional 5 years to September 2027. And amended draft plan conditions for the lands municipally known as 7662 Highway 26 Stayner. Okay, mover and seconder on this motion. Ms. Deneen, Mr. Lamers, thank you. Is that Mara? Oh, no, it's not Mara. It's Rosalind. Hello, Rosalind.
Hi, good evening, council and Mayor.
Yes, do you have any further comments to the report?
No, I don't think so. We are doing 3 separate things here with, but you will recall that we did have the public meeting July 27th of 2022 of this year. So, and we didn't really have any comments for that zoning public meeting. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Members of council. Yes. Councillor Walker, looking around, nothing further. Mr. Walker, go ahead.
Draft plan approval for 5 years.
Yep.
Here we go again. You know, it's bugging my ear. Here we've got other agents, other developers wanting water and sewer. And we got somebody sitting on a draft plan. And there's no intent. When do they plan to do anything? Another 5 years and then we'll extend? I can't support extending this another 5 years. This outfit has been here. They've been here for quite a while with the extensions of this draft plan. And I think it's time that this council started pulling in some of these draft plan extensions and either making them put it into action, or under the new bill, we can relive the old, we can bring back the application if it passes. So I cannot support the giving them a 5-year extension. I would either see a 2 or 3 year at the most for any of these draft plans.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else with any comments? Yes, Councillor Leishman.
I agree with Councillor Walker. I would like to, I wouldn't pass 5 years. I don't think we've done 5 years at this council for quite a while, have we? Oh, damn. Okay, so anyway, I think 2 to 3 years would be best, and I'd like to add that as an amendment if I.
All right, so Councillor Leishman is asking for amendment. Can I get a clear number from you?
I'd say 2 years. They've had 3 extensions now, or 4. Anyway, 2 years.
2 years.
Get their act together.
2-year extension?
Yeah.
All right. Madam Clerk, have you recorded that?
Through your worship, yes, we can either do it as amendment, or would you like a motion?
I'm looking to the mover and seconder, which I believe was Deneen and Lamers. You're comfortable with that amendment? So they're considering it a friendly at this time, unless there's any dispute from the members. Mr. Patterson?
When were they first, when was their first application? And when was the first draft plan approved?
Where are we? Yeah, Roz, do you have that information handy?
I was just looking through my report to find that, actually.
Yeah, let's take a minute on that. I do acknowledge through the clerk that Amanda Hoffman is on the call and she has her hand up, and I'm unsure if she's related to this.
She is actually, so she is representing Jones Consulting. And I have found in my report when it was originally draft plan approved, which was May 24th of 2005.
2005.
All right, Ms. Burton, do you want something you want to jump in?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that I certainly appreciate the frustration around the table. I do just want to remind council that this draft plan has a road that goes essentially to Highway 26 that allows the trunk sewer main from the sewage treatment plant to Highway 26, which is required in order to service Bridle Park and the Cityscape project. So one of the things that we have been talking with Bridle Park about is to speak perhaps with Tony DeRose in case Bridle Park wanted to upfront bring that sanitary service across for their project. As I understand it, and I'm sure that Dan can help me here if I have this wrong, but I believe that Bridle Park is one of the people who is one of the developers who's looking to pay for the Stainer water up front. Of course, we do have a 2-year project on the Stainer water to be able to service these projects. So I can certainly appreciate the idea of a 2 or 3 year extension. Certainly, it's going to be 2 years before we bring the water on. Emerald Creek said they weren't planning on doing their project within that 2 years. And of course, Emerald Creek is not part of the water. So they're kind of beyond the end. They're into a 2025, 2026 project. However, Councillor Rocker is absolutely right that under this new bill, so long as this bill doesn't change that part of the extension, should this project not get an extension, we could go back unless the province changes that again. So many things here, so many balls in the air. I can certainly appreciate the comments around the table, and I'll just look back to the mayor because I do understand that there are other people here that do want to speak to this. So
I get that. It's difficult to bring in a consultant from Jones, so perhaps maybe in an offline fashion, Ms. Hoffman can connect with Rosalind or Mara, and you guys can bring forward their recommendations or their concerns. Yes, Rosalind, go ahead. And before you do that, I just want to caution to Mr. Ferguson, I'll be coming to you next in regards to a discussion. Go ahead, Roz.
Well, and I just wanted to add to Mara's comments that the other thing that this particular Emerald Creek Estates has been dealing with has been a species at risk on the site. And so the species at risk was a bat species, and that has actually taken the developer quite a bit of time to get approvals from our other agencies. And with COVID, of course, 2 years, in all fairness to the developer, he didn't ask the bats to land on his site, but they have, and he is now actually taking liberties to protect these habitat for these bats, and he's actually reducing units again on the site. So that's part of the red line revision, and also what the zoning bylaw amendment has actually been implementing as well. So we're increasing a lot of environmental protection on this land, and I think, while I understand the frustration, there have been some things out of the control of the developer, and the species at risk has been one of the major issues in this situation.
All right, thanks for that update. Mr. Ferguson, I wanted to call it to your attention in regards to Mr. Ron is not with us tonight, but maybe you could speak about the water project. I mean, the window of opportunity, as I understand it, is in the 2025 range, which actually makes it 3 years out. So is that correct, Mr. Ferguson? And the participation of Emerald Creek versus the participation of the Bridle Park, I mean, they're kind of symbiotic, as I understand it. So John, maybe you can help, or Mr. Ferguson, if you could help council understand sort of the delicacies of that 2025 window.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And as the mayor has just pointed out, we are working on the final stages of bringing several developers together that will lead to the water infrastructure build. That is related to certain development, but in order for the development to occur on the other side of the highway, this infrastructure still needs to be built. So to a certain extent, I think the timing of Emerald Creek, they've been waiting to see when that'll happen. So they're in a better position now to look towards the next 5 years than they probably have been in the past, although I wasn't here in the past, but I would say that there's a better opportunity for them in order to get that infrastructure that will aid their build in the future. So that I would say is the different circumstance at this time. And I do agree, 2005 is a long time. Often developers will wait for the right time. I think this time period for Emerald Creek, it should occur within that 5 years, I hope, and then maybe council can take a look at this again in 5 years if they don't do it. But I think this will be their opportunity to see development if it's approved this time. That's my comment.
All right. So council, if I may, and respectful to the process here, a friendly amendment to put 2 years in would actually problematically create a bump in the road. So a 3 year rather than a 2 year would be probably best, which puts us to 2025, which further acknowledges that this reduction based on their environmental impact concerns, reduction in number, is something that will put some pressure on. The other aspect is that the next council at 2025 will then be able to be in a clear communication with the owner that it is a 20-year process that they've now been sitting for 20 years at 2025. So that's my thought. Just thinking if we went to 2025 rather than 2027, that puts it right in their hands that they must react. Tom.
Yeah, quick question. They don't carry or hold a pre-allocation for services, do they?
See, that's the point. Emerald doesn't, but Bridle does, right? As I understand it. John, is that correct? Maybe Mara's got that info. Go ahead, Mara.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I do believe that Emerald Creek prepaid sewage back, some years ago now,
Yes,
but
they did.
they have not prepaid their water. So they have sewer allocation.
Okay.
So there is some, to quote Steve Sage, skin in the game.
Okay. Members of council, can I go back to the mover on the original friendly?
Who's the mover?
Are you comfortable with my ask for 3 instead of 2? Yeah. Okay. Friendlies, are we looking at 3s instead of 2s?
Yeah.
Okay, the movers and seconder. Madam Clerk, could you record the friendly has been changed from 2 to 3, so that makes it a 3 year, puts it to 2025.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Madam Clerk?
That is correct. We've changed it for an additional 3 years to September 2025.
Okay. Now, back to the original motion. Is there anything further? I know this has been a fun one. Anybody else? Nope. Looking good. Members of council, I can read the whole motion again. I hope not, but I think you understand where this is coming from. Everybody comfortable? All right. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous as amended. Thank you. Thank you, staff. Site plan approval for a telecom tower. Before I read that, just want to again acknowledge that we are not the approval agency. Transport Canada and Industry Canada are, but this is a part of our process for telecommunications towers. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report PB 054-2022, site plan approval for telecom tower at 62-63-34 Side Road dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, approve the telecommunication tower site plan by A. Martin, Ontario Land Surveyor dated October 2022. October 2019. I'm sorry, October 2022, 2019, and revised on September 26, 2021. Mover and seconder on this telecommunications option, Mr. Broderick, and seconded Mr. Walker. Roz, anything you want to add? I see you're still on the screen.
Yes, nothing, just to remind you that the public meeting for this was held in October 25th of 2021. And we did have some public comments at that meeting. And if you recall, well, my report actually outlines that we did ask the applicant to go back to MTO and to see if there was an opportunity to put the tower on the lands that would be east of this subject property and possibly locate the tower on the parking lot that is there. Unfortunately, the applicants have not been able to get an answer from the MTO, and therefore they did ask that staff bring this forward for council's consideration.
All right. Further to that, the comments from that meeting were also that they should be building these towers in the communities where they intend to serve rather than putting them in our community where they're serving a neighboring community. Telecommunications tower is supposed to serve the community where they're located. But nevertheless, they designed it to serve the town of Wasaga Beach, our neighboring municipality. And unfortunately, we again are not the ultimate approval agency. It does fall back to Transport Canada and also Industry Canada, Industry and Economic Development Canada. Members of council, anything further? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, staff. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And it carries. Thank you. Another mess of telecommunications towers. All right. Red line revision draft plan extension. This is in regards to 7535 Highway 26 Stainer, kind of related to something we just talked about. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report PB 056-2022, red line revision of draft plan extension for 7535 Highway 26 Stainer, dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, approve the Bridle Park draft plan of subdivision for the lands municipally known as 7535 Highway 26 Stainer, dated July 6, 2022, showing a total of 858 units. And attached as Appendix E to report PB 056-2022, dated September 12, 22. And item 3, approve a draft plan extension for an additional 5 years to September 2027. And amended draft plan conditions for the lands municipally known as 7535 Highway 26 Stainer. Mover and seconder. Mr. Broderick, thank you. Is there a seconder on the motion? Mr. Lamers, thank you. John and John. All right. Roz, is that you again? Hello? Anything further
Yes,
you want to add to this one?
I was
related to the first one?
yeah, well, in the same neck of the woods of Stainer, for sure, in the same area. Just a couple new things with this. This is a new owner of these lands. So they are coming in fresh. And in this case, we didn't actually need a public meeting because the changes that they are proposing to their red line revision are what we would consider minor. But we do need, obviously, council's approval or support on this. Basically, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of council with any questions or comments? Mr. Walker's on the table. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. To Roz, and when, so you say new owners just recently? That's first of all. And the second question is, when did this, when was Bridle Park first started? What year?
Yeah, good question. I am, so yeah, I believe the owners are like brand new. I think this year. And I do actually, their planning consultant, Chris Menzies, is on the line from MHBC. She would potentially have a little bit more information on ownership and when that was done. And in terms, and again, I'm just looking to my report, sorry. I do believe that it was given in 2009, but it was TSI International, I believe. So 2009.
2009, Mr. Walker. Okay, anything further from other members of council? Mr. Walker, are you flashing your card again or not?
Yeah, you know, I don't like 5 years, but we've got a new owner, so maybe benefit of the doubt. And this is the Bridle Park is part of our water allotment, is it right? Part of our new water system, pay-ins, part of our developers. New owner, I think maybe I will let the 5-year go on this as a new owner, just to help them move it forward. And I'm hoping that they do move it forward quickly and show us some intent to build.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything further from members of council? I can acknowledge, I see we do have Chris Menzies joining us. Hello, Chris. Nice to see you. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you in person in ages. Holy cow. I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Nothing like a pandemic to stop that.
Yeah, I know. Go kidding. Members of council, anything further? All right. I'm prepared to call this motion then. Members of council, we have a motion. We have a mover and seconder. I'll call the motion. All those in favor. And it carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Council, we're on to Public Works. This is something that was mentioned by Councillor Patterson a few minutes ago, but we'll get to it right now. Public Works, PW, thank you staff for joining us there. I saw they did a great job. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one receive PW 033 2022 patios, parking and pedestrian dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, endorse the township on-street patio policy as presented. Item 3, direct staff to negotiate with the current leasee of 15 Elizabeth Street East to expand the parking area to the south of the existing paved parking area and include $50,000 in the 2022 Public Works capital budget to implement a permanent public parking solution on this property. Item 4 is direct staff to negotiate with the owner of 187 Mill Street to lease a portion of the property in order to create a public parking area at the rear of the Foodland building and include funds in the 2023 Public Works capital budget to implement public parking on this property. And item 5 is direct staff to include $10,000 in the 2023 Public Works capital budget to purchase and install rapid rectangular flashing beacons and pedestrian crossing signage on the south side of the intersection at Mill Street and Caroline Street. Wow. Can I have a mover and seconder on this motion? Mr. Patterson is there. Seconder, Mr. Broderick. Thank you. Mr. Perot is on side for this. Mr. Perot, one of the things that sticks out to me before we go to members of council and before you speak, I'm just concerned when you say that you want to negotiate with the current leasee of a property for a change of use in their property. So I'm concerned whether we shouldn't just be speaking to the owner of the property rather than the leasee. And that's kind of confusing to me on how that works. So just, you know, on the surface, I get the idea, but when you're dealing with making it into paving, are you comfortable that the leasee is the person that we need to work with? Mr. Perot?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And through to you to council, when Councillor Patterson originally brought this up in May, we had done some research and there is a lease. So the township is the owners of the property. If we're talking about 15 Elizabeth Street.
I know, but what I'm saying is that why are we negotiating with ourselves?
But so that the lease for that property gives sole operation for parking not only the park, not only the building and the operation of the building, but also the parking. It's included in parking.
Okay.
It's unclear in the lease whether parking includes the whole property or just the existing asphalt parking area. So I think just a conversation with the leasee would be appropriate at this time to just ensure that is also their interpretation of the lease agreement.
Okay, so that would bring back an amendment to the lease agreement, or that a new agreement with the leasee? I mean, it's specifically would be changing. So
yeah, I think if the lease, the way the lease was written today, or the existing lease didn't have specifically mentioned parking, I think we would be a bit more comfortable moving forward, or just with that sentence in there, that word, as far as parking, we would have to go back to them to
all right,
see if they're welcoming to that. Maybe a minor amendment to the lease would be appropriate as well.
All right. Thank you for the help and the clarification on that. Mr. Patterson, I see you want to speak.
Well, no, I just, if Dan wanted to finish going through the points, I'd welcome that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was watching him while you were motioning over there. I thought you wanted
Oh,
to
yeah,
speak.
no, sorry.
All right. Dan, you want to, anything you want to outline in this report other than that business about the lease?
Yeah, not really. I think that I've hoped to have addressed Councillor Patterson's original motion or report, I guess, that was referred back to staff. That I know that he and I had several conversations about this, and particularly around the parking and some parking issues within Creemore, and also trying to formalize something for all of Clearview Township, not just Creemore, for the patios, because I know that there were a couple of places in Stayner that during the pandemic anyway, they had investigated the possibility to put on-street patios in downtown Stayner, and we had received MTO confirmation that would be something that we could make a decision on. So this will formalize a plan moving forward, hopefully, if council adopts the policy, that we could roll out in the spring of 2023.
All right. Tom, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah. And I'm sure Dan might have a picture. The other thing that we're addressing, because Mill Street is an active street with the patios for sure, is the pedestrian safety. And the busiest intersection that we have is Caroline Street in Mill Street. That's on the weekends, and during the school years, it's a popular crossing. We used to have a crossing guard there before. And Dan, I don't know if you have a picture to throw up and show that beacon, but this is a solar powered crossing, pedestrian sensitive flashing light, basically, that stops the traffic and what makes people aware that there's going to be some pedestrians crossing at that point. And we tried to do it with paint, and really paint is almost distracting. Some people expect, some pedestrians expect that because the paint's there, it's a safety zone. And this way the sensor senses the pedestrian wants to cross, the traffic sees the flashing beacon, and crossing is safer. So Dan, did you have a picture of it?
I did. It's the last page of my report.
Yeah. Okay. So you've seen it. So that's it. So it's something, these things we've been talking about them for a couple of years. So Dan found a good solution. It's also cheaper than an officer.
Oh, yeah. Any other members of council, any questions in regards to this report? Yes, Mr. Walker and Ms. Deneen. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Dan, the flashing beacon pedestrian crossing. Legally, what's the ramifications? What type of parking restrictions? Is it treated similar to just an intersection, or is it considered a crosswalk? What type of rules does it fall under for legal issues and parking issues close to it?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Walker's. So, it more, I would say that the pedestrian crossing is more of an advisory, so pedestrians are still going to have to be aware, they can't rely on a light like you would on a signalized intersection with the traditional red, yellow, green. Those are more regulatory. This would be more advisory, and that's why they're yellow or flashing. And as far as at an intersection, because it's not a fully controlled intersection, this would be again more advisory. So at that particular location, the stop condition is on Caroline Street. This would be an advisory for motorists that travel north-south on Mill Street that there's pedestrians wanting to cross the road.
Just supplemental to that, then Dan, something like that would not be advisable in Stainer because of the volume of traffic and the uncertainty of that type of light on the main street anyways. It would have to be at another location. I know it's MTO controlled, and I realize that as well. So something like that is a possibility or is not a possibility?
Dan?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, through Councillor Walker. To be honest with you, I have had a couple of conversations or email correspondence back and forth with the MTO and what the municipality can or cannot do within the connecting link agreement that we have with the MTO. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it's not quite as restrictive as maybe it has been. As far as pedestrian crossings has been concerned, controlled intersections is a different story with the MTO, but pedestrian crossings, maybe not so much. I am working with our RJ Burnside, our consulting engineers, to put a plan in place to hopefully have for council as part of the 2023 budget package specifically for the intersection of North Street and Highway 26, where the crossing guard is there, and that would be more to the effect of a pedestrian activated signal. So it's not a controlled intersection. It'd be a pedestrian would physically, push a button, and you would go through the sequence of the red, yellow, green. So that seems to be sufficient for MTO requirements. We would have to do some administrative work if council were to set that, approve that budget amount in the 2023 budget, as far as changing our connecting link bylaw agreement with them. But that is something that I've been working on for the last few months. So I know there's been some conversation with the location on 26 through Main Street, in particular at the trail crossing. I know that's been a concern for many years, and I can advise council that the County of Simcoe is currently working on an EA for upgrades to the trail through from Stainer to Angus, basically, and there may be opportunities there as far as that process to do some crossing works at that location. So those may be further on down the road, depending on how the county makes out with the trail development. But there are some opportunities there as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
That's very encouraging to hear, particularly, as this community also looks at the downtown redevelopment of Stayner, the future plans there. So that's encouraging. I'm glad to hear that it's on your radar. Other members?
Sorry, Your Worship. Yeah, that I did clue into that too when you had mentioned that. But yeah, depending on how that redevelopment happens, we are looking at possibly making some improvements at that intersection of Huron, Brock, and Highway 26 as well. Potentially, right. If as the revitalization of downtown Stayner moves along.
Exactly. Okay. Well, there's certainly a lot of work to be done there. Sorry, did I see Councillor? Yes, Deneen, you had something you wanted to bring in here?
Through Your Worship to Dan, and this is probably way too early to even ask this. The Foodland parking lot behind the Foodland, how many parking, do you have any idea how many parking spots that might give you that area? Or is it too soon?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Deneen, I wouldn't wager to guess. It would depend on how much we could develop that area. The Foodland store does utilize some of that space for some outdoor storage and those types of things. So, until we worked out some sort of agreement with the landowner there, then I would be hesitant to guess on the number of spots we would get.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other members? Did I miss somebody in here? I've been having for members of council, I've been having an offline discussion here with the clerk in regards to she's brought forward a kind of a warranted concern. So she's madly typing away and writing away. If I can, the clerk has a comment in regards to the allocation of funds and attaching them to a future budget. Ms. Clerk.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Just reviewing the recommendations. What I'm recommending is that we add an additional clause to the motion or the recommendation to clarify that we're not actually directing the money to be included within the budget, but that the items will be included in the budget for consideration. So we're not actually directing that, we're basically pre-approving that for 2023. So what I'm recommending is that item 6B, that the recommended 2023 budget items above be brought forward in the 2023 budget for consideration. Yeah. So then the future council will then be able to decide as to whether they want to move forward with it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Particularly in this year, being an election year, we have to be careful not to apply things by motion of council that are impacting the budget when we may not be the people actually approving the budget. Highly likely we're not. So it's the next council that will. So we have to give that council the respect of having the opportunity to make that approvals.
So,
Mr. Patterson.
So as the mover, I was fully expecting that. Both
So,
Dan and
okay.
I. Yeah.
So you're comfortable with that? Thank you.
No, that was the expectation.
Excellent. So council, there's an amended motion there. Any questions on that?
I take that as a friendly.
It's very friendly, I'm hoping. Good. Anybody else with any questions? Thank you, Dan, for all your work on this. It's a complicated thing. I was concerned because when we had the initial discussion about this back to Elizabeth Street, was that that parking lot, I think I mentioned this, that during the Copper Kettle Festival, I noted how people just weren't using it. They were parked all over the streets, but they weren't actually parked at the Copper Kettle, like they weren't using it. So it was kind of a challenge, right? That if we did a better job with that parking lot and fixed it up and made it look good, that maybe people would use it as a parking lot.
Yeah. So just a comment too, if you're looking at it, there's 3 blocks in the back. There's a piece that is attached, the paved piece that is attached to the laundromat and the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's one owner, not involved in this agreement. And then there's a gravel piece as it moved towards Foodland. And there's an old shack, an old garage with a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
All that brush, that's a second block. And then the block that owns that Foodland is on is third block. The third and the second are owned by Sobeys, by a private owner that leases all of it to Sobeys.
Yes.
And the general appeal for this to Sobeys, and Sim, the manager of the store, is very community minded and wants to contribute, is that they can clean up that whole corner, clean up his storage area, get parking in there and some paving. So that's what Dan's working on.
I concur with all that. So that's good. All right, council, you understood? Can I just, do we need it reread and you understand the extension number 6? We're okay? All right. Members of council, we've got a motion as amended. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That also carries unanimously. Thank you, Dan, for your input and work on this.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, council. Okay, Finance Department, Development Charge Statement. I'm not sure if somebody's here from Finance. Is there? She there? There she is. Hi, Kelly. Development Charge Statement. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report FIN 013-2022 as the 2020 Development Charge Statement dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, direct the treasurer to forward a copy of the Treasurer Statement 2020 Development Charges to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And can I have a mover and seconder on that? Mr. Walker and Councillor Deneen, thank you. Any questions? Actually, Kelly, do you got anything you want to add?
Thank you, Worship. Some regulatory reports this evening. The next ones are all the same, and I'm available for questions, but they're pretty straightforward.
They are so. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll stand by. Members of council, any questions, any concerns? Seeing none, I'll prepare to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. All right. So the 2021 Development Charge Statement, be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report FIN 014-2022. It's the 2021 Development Charge Statement dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, direct the staff to forward a copy of the Treasurer Statement 2021 Development Charges to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Looking this way for a mover and seconder. Councillor Leishman, Councillor Broderick, I thank you. Anything further? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Thank you, unanimous. And the ever interesting statement of remuneration. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report FIN 014. Oh, these are both the same number. This would be 15. Sorry, I'm just reading it off the item. So I'll start again. Receive report FIN 015-2022 for the 2019, 2020, and 2021 statement of remuneration dated September 12, 2022 for information. Can I have a mover and seconder from the floor? Deneen and Lamers. Any questions? No questions? I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. Well, Legislative Services, appointment of the Joint Compliance Audit Committee. Yes, as mentioned earlier, we're in an election, so that we have to do this to participate in a joint Compliance Audit Committee. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report LS 019-2022. It's the appointment of the Joint Compliance Audit Committee dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, that the bylaw establishing and appointing a Joint Compliance Audit Committee be presented to Council for consideration. Mover and seconder, please. Be Leishman and Broderick. Thank you. Leishman, Broderick. Any questions? Seeing none, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. And council meeting schedule. Before we go, was there an amendment to that, or was it, you mentioned, oh, we're okay. All right. I wasn't sure. Just think there was a chat there about a meeting date, but anyway, be it resolved the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive LS 020-2022-2023 council meeting schedule, and also dated September 12, 2022. Item 2, approve the 2023 council meeting schedule as presented. Okay, mover and seconder on the schedule. Deneen and Lamers, any questions? This is something that we can actually apply to the next council. We can do that. We'll get to that. We can do this, actually. We can set the schedule for the next council. All those in favor? And that also carries unanimous. Thank you. Can't set the budget, but we can set the schedule. How's that? I know. Council, item number 13 was already dealt with, I believe, unless there was something on that page that I missed. Yes, there was. Zoning bylaw amendments for 7662 Highway 26 Stainer. Be it resolved that bylaw 22-74, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character known, regulate the use of land and character, location and use of buildings and structures on lands municipally known as 7662 Highway 26 Stainer, and legally described as Part Lot 27, Concession 2, Registered Plan 51R851, Part Lot 70, Registered Plan 51R32096, formerly in Ottawasaga, now in the beautiful township of Clearview. You presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 12th day of September 2022. The bylaw is moved by Councillor Leishman, seconded by Councillor Broderick. Any questions? Yes. Obviously, as amended, it would be as amended bylaw, correct, madam?
Through your worship, perhaps Mrs. McDonald can assist, but I'm pretty sure the actual extension is not included within the bylaw itself. It's actually just in the motion.
Mara, are you still on board? Planning Department?
Yes, I am, your worship.
Yes, can you just clarify that?
Absolutely. The zoning, this is just the zoning amendment. It is not the extension. The extension was done by resolution.
Right. Clarity is important. Everybody comfortable? Thank you. I'm prepared to call the bylaw. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mara. 2275, Joint Compliance and Audit Committee. Be it resolved that bylaw 2275, being a bylaw to establish and appoint a Joint Compliance Audit Committee, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed on the 12th day of September 2022. Walker and Deneen. Thank you, Walker, Deneen. Read the bylaw. Any further? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. We now have a Joint Compliance Audit Committee. As I said before, item 13 was already carried or already moved into the agenda. And so at this point, I have nothing further. Am I right, Madam Clerk?
Just confirmation.
Item 14, confirmation. Do you want to wait till 9:30? So we have to extend the meeting? No? Bylaw to, sorry, I'll call for a recess, gentlemen. Oh, you guys are fun. Bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our council meeting. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2276, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the September 12, 2022 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 12th day of September 2022. Moved by Mr. Walker, seconded by Mr. Broderick. Those in favor? Carries unanimous. Motion to adjourn. Be it resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at, and that will be 9:28. Correct? Ms. Deneen is the mover. Mr. Lamers is the seconder. Those in favor? And that carries. Thank you, everybody. Again, a long meeting, good material in here. And I appreciate you taking a moment and remembering Her Majesty in your thoughts this week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a good night.